What's going on, guys? It's Logan, it's EJ, and welcome to the SwampCast, baby. Gators go into Tallahassee, a.k.a. Ron Zook Field, and get the dub. That's what we love to see, baby. Defended our second home turf that we have. Bro, felt great, man. I was at that game. Amazing. Fun atmosphere. It's always great. By the way, the Gators took over that field of fans, man. I mean, there was... I'll say that it was probably 60-40 Florida State to Florida fans, dude. It was insane. It was loud for Florida. We took it over, man, which is what I expected. So that was a fun atmosphere. But EJ, Gators get the dub, man. Go in a tally. I know you grew up around that area, man. You know a lot about it. What does this game mean to you? How does it feel to get the dub, man?
Man, plant my flag.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I grew up in Tallahassee, lived there for 25 years, I guess. And when I lived there, it was the glory years of FSU. So every time we beat them, it was beautiful. The crazy thing, though, here's the craziest thing about it. Steve Spurrier never won in Doak Campbell Stadium, and Billy Napier is now 1-1, baby.
That's crazy. He never won in Doak Campbell Stadium?
He never won a game there. Because, in the 90s, it's like, this is when FSU was like in their prime,
Right.
93, 99 national champs. We had a chance in 94, I believe, to beat them there. And we were up 31-3, and they came back and tied the game 31-31. And I don't think we had overtime back then that year. So the game ended tied at 31. And so I was like,
That's crazy.
Yeah. So and then 96, the year we won the national championship, we were undefeated. We went there and got beat 24-21. I remember that game like it was yesterday. I think they sacked us. They sacked us about as many times as we sacked them in this game.
Yeah.
And Steve Spurrier, he had to change something up, and he went to the shotgun in the national championship game, and that completely changed the game for us. But yeah, he never won. I think he lost. He was 0-4-1, I think, in Doak Campbell Stadium or something crazy like that. But yeah, man, wow. I'm so proud of our team.
Insane, man. What a game. Yeah, cold, by the way, dude. 40 degrees. The entire time, man. I was freezing, dude. Everyone was freezing. No, it was funny. It was either people wearing shorts and a t-shirt or people with like 17 layers on shivering, and I was one of the people shivering. And yeah, it's so funny to go to their stadium, man, because it's so outdated. That's one thing I love. Listen, I love Doak Campbell Stadium. I talked about this. It's one of those games that means a lot to me because one of my first ever college football games I watched that was outside of Florida when I was a kid was Clemson and Florida State when Florida State had their second kind of golden era, in the early 2010s. And yeah, I remember that atmosphere and I loved it. And I went to my first game at Doak Campbell Stadium a couple years ago with AR and Billy. And we obviously didn't win that one, but and so I want to go every other year now to this game. But yeah, man, it's just like it's when you go to the Swamp, and some other stadiums I've been to, they have like TVs everywhere. You know what I mean, by the concessions. And at Doak Campbell Stadium, you don't have that. And the food's not great. They don't have our crappy Domino's that we have, even though we love it. And it's not the same, man. It's not the same. But yeah, just fun time. It wasn't super loud, like I said, for a couple different reasons. Number one, they're 2-10. Okay, that's number one. Even though the fans were still talking, I'm like, dude, you guys, this is literally your worst year ever. Like, just it's just insane. But yeah, we it was about 60-40, like I said, Florida State to Florida. So much blue in the crowd, man. It was insane. The only big group of Florida State fans in the entire stadium was the student section because it was senior night. You know what I mean? So a lot of them did show up to that. So they were pretty energetic when it came to that and brought a lot of energy there. And then you have the other part of this. There's probably like, I think, 20,000 seats that are being renovated right now at the stadium. Yeah. So it's just a bunch of empty seats. So that obviously takes away a little bit from the atmosphere as well. And obviously ups the ticket prices and everything. So, you know what I mean? So it wasn't kind of that prime, atmosphere that Doak Campbell usually brings, because it's a very loud stadium. It can get loud there, man, and get rowdy there. It's a fun atmosphere to be in, but it wasn't that this time around for all those reasons. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive into this game, man. The Gators win this football game, 31-11. I think, let me see what my prediction was for the game. My score prediction
I thought
was,
we were pretty close.
yeah, I was 38-17. I believe you were 34-16. So yeah, we were right around the same area of what we scored. My keys to the game was stay healthy, underlined, and I think we pretty much did that. Even though I will say this, DJ Lagway did injure his ankle or something on his right side in this game. There was a couple, which there's so much going on in this game. I love going to football games because you see so much you don't see on TV, But I forgot, it was, I think, the second quarter. He got sacked, and he stood up, and he was hobbling, man, and barely putting pressure on his right ankle. And then the rest of the game, he looked a little bit off with it, but he looked pretty okay by the end of it. But yeah, other than that, though, we all stayed healthy, man. Our guys that did play in this game played hard. There was an energy, obviously, the fight at the end with the flag.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, EJ, big performance by the defense. Offense was okay. Tell me how you feel about this game. What jumped out at you, man, before we dive into everything? How was it?
Yeah, I thought it was a great game. The game plan for Napier was definitely not like we were definitely the underdog, because I think all the games that we've been the underdog, which we've pretty much been the underdog every game we've played, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Other than
Yeah.
Mississippi State, I don't think we've been favored in
I
any
think you're
game.
right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so like UCF, we were the underdog. Kentucky, we were technically the underdog by a point. The mentality of the team was a little bit different going into the game. Um, DJ did look a little bit off in his passes early in the game. Had a couple high, had a couple behind. I still think the receivers should have caught the balls early, because if it hits you in your hand, you got to bail your quarterback out. He's on one leg out here
There was a
trying to
lot of
throw the
drops.
ball.
Yeah, there was a
Yeah,
lot
there
of
were a lot
drops.
of drops, and that was unconventional. But the it didn't hurt us because Florida State could not capitalize. And man, they are. I mean, I've never seen a team that doesn't know how to hold on to the ball. Like they were, it was almost like every possess. You only have the ball, what, 8, 9 times a game, and they fumbled it 8 times. They fumbled it every time they had the ball.
Yeah.
So I mean, the game was really, at the end of the day, close, and they were within somewhat of a striking distance because of their self-inflicted egregious fumbles, muffed punts, fumble at the goal line. The quarterback gets sacked and he fumbles. He fumbles again. Guys in a crowd of people
Yep.
strip the ball. They probably could have. This could have been a game. But Billy Napier, I mean, according to PFF, he was playing so many different players in this game that it just looked like he was just trying to get everybody in the game. And we were playing pretty much. I don't think there's a person on the roster that didn't at least have one snap in this game.
Yeah.
So he was playing everyone. We were a little bit off, but didn't need to be 100% on to win this game. But great performance by the defense, of course,
Awesome.
which we'll talk a little bit about. They were pretty much the difference in the game. Offensively, would have liked to see DJ hit a deep pass in the game, but it looked like, at least on TV, I'd love to hear what you think on live, because you can see the whole field. It looked like Florida State was and the thing is, Florida State, they've got a talented team. These players are really good. The defensive line was supposed to be really good. The defensive line got pressure with just 5 guys, allowing them to, be back. And I don't think Billy Napier wanted DJ to force the ball down the field in the game. And the one time he did, it was intercepted. So I think we kept it a little bit conservative.
Yeah.
Um, and the only other thing, our running back rotations is kind of weird, but we have three guys. I mean, I guess you're trying to get them all the ball. And yeah, I mean, 235 yards rushing, 6 yards a rush. Um, Man, great job.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I mean, our defense really saved us in this game because offensively, especially in the first half, there was nothing. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
it was really weird to see. And look, I think that this game proves something to me. We need an offensive coordinator because some of these play calls, once again, man, were just it was so annoying. And because kind of going back to what we talked about DJ Lagway. DJ Lagway did not have his best game in this game. He had, I mean, his monster moment that I guarantee if he wins Heisman in these next few years that we're going to come back and point to is when this defensive tackle had this guy in a sack, wrapped his arms around him, and bro, the energy live was insane. And he just pushes this, 300-pound guy down in the ground, does a spin move, finds DK, throws a dime to DK on a little crossing route. It was beautiful, dude. I mean, just insane. The crowd was going crazy. Even FSU fans around us were going, "Oh my god! Like, who is this guy? This is insane." But yeah, I mean, a lot of actually some of those balls early on in the game were very catchable balls, but like you said, we were just dropping them.
Yeah,
Livingston had a drop. You know what I mean? I think DK had a drop. It was
DK had a big drop.
yeah, it was really weird to see that. And then as the game went on, I mean, DJ just did not. He's a freshman. You know what I mean? He's gonna make mistakes. He's not gonna make every throw, but he needs to work on his like intermediate to short game,
For sure.
accuracy, because he's throwing these balls like really high. You know what I mean? To where his guys have to jump up and catch it, but if you just hit him in stride on a crosser, on a slant or something, that could be a touchdown. That could be a 20, 30-yard game, but they're having to jump up, catch that ball, then they get tackled as they're coming back to the ground. So there was a lot of it was just very inaccurate last night, and I think a lot of that had to do with how, by the way, like you were talking about, how the Florida State defense was defending his passes, and also because it was 40 degrees out. It was 38 by the time the game ended. It's cold, dude. It was freezing.
Jeez, yeah, that's cold. That's pretty cold.
And there was a little bit of wind, bro. It was brutal. I literally had 4 to 5 layers on throughout the game. And so going to how the FSU defense was playing Lagway, they just fired their DC, and that's probably the best thing to ever happen to them because the DC played this game really, really well. He always had too high. He was really taking away those deep shots, and he was bringing pressure up front. And what that does, it got to DJ. I mean, our offensive line played like absolute garbage in this game at a lot of different times. We did have Damian George out at the, I believe, guard position, right? Or does he play tackle? No, I think
he plays guard, doesn't he?
I think he does play guard, yeah, with Austin Barber on the other side, I believe. So he was out. So, we had some young guys in there. Like you said, everyone played in this game. I mean, we even had Warner in at the end. But we had everyone in throughout this game. And you really saw that on the offensive line. I mean, we had some big plays like Montrell's big run, and Jaden Ball had a few big explosive plays. And we had some big plays passing the ball too down the field. But I mean, Lagway just didn't have time throwing the ball, and I think that's a big reason why he couldn't take some of those deep shots. But I will say this, a lot of those deep shots were covered. There really wasn't a lot of opportunity down the field. I would even say this, I think Florida State had more opportunities at shots down the field than Florida did. Florida State had multiple guys open deep, which we've seen this in the past couple of weeks, and I never thought I'd say this, but Florida has been lucky the past couple weeks on defense, which is never the case. Usually, we're the unlucky ones, you know what I mean? And it's funny to see Florida State have the lack of luck because, they're fumbling the ball 5 times. They get in the red zone twice and don't come up with points. And so it's sad to see. As a Gator fan, it's like, oh, well, that's usually us. You know what I mean? We're usually falling apart at the end of the season in a big rivalry game. But yeah, we just kept getting lucky on defense, even though they played really well up front. But yeah, when it comes to DJ Lagway though, like Florida State, what they did is they said, hey, we're going to get pressure on DJ Lagway, and we're going to take away these deep shots, and we're going to force him to throw these underneath passes, which he's not comfortable doing. and he did do a pretty good job. I mean, you have the slide right here up that our yards per pass was only 6, right? And this Florida
Yeah.
State defense was allowing 7.5, and we were getting almost 9. You know what I mean? Coming into this game, um, so they really forced DJ to throw some of these underneath passes. And a big thing that I said earlier was that we need an offensive coordinator, and a big reason why is because Billy Napier still tried to keep hitting these deep shots on these plays when he was like, I feel like if you see that they're taking away these deep shots and that they're really bringing these linebackers up close, hit a quick crosser, hit a quick slant, do something, find these one-on-one matchups. And Billy Napier just did not do that this whole game. He just was very adamant on doing what he usually does, and it's what we talked about, EJ. If Billy Napier's game plan works in a game, it works. But if it doesn't work and it takes an aspect away, he's going to keep doing it anyway because it's what he game planned for. And that's exactly what happened in this game. He came into this game thinking, hey, let's do what we usually do every other game and just run, and take a shot deep with DJ Lagway, which, hey, will work because DJ can hit those deep shots. But guess what? If they're stopping their run sometimes, we're not too consistent running the football, which is what was going on early in this game, then we try to take these deep shots when, by the way, the same flood concept on every single down. It's so stupid. We have the 2 deep crossers coming in the middle of the field, and FSU every single time, by the way, was coming down on those crossers. No one was really open this game for DJ Lagway to hit. Now, as the game went on, more guys got open, but my point is as a head coach and as an offensive coordinator, you have to do a better job calling the plays. And look at Florida State. Right? What have we been doing the past couple weeks because we have a lot of guys out in the secondary? We've been bailing, right? We've been, really playing soft. Florida State kept hitting these hitches, these, 6-7 yard hitches and putting them in 3rd and short and then, 2nd and short and putting them in great positions. But they just suck, so they couldn't capitalize on it, like you said. But if this is a good team, we lose this football game. You know what I mean? Because they take advantage of that. The 5 fumbles, they were driving down the field on us on a lot of different drives, and we just got lucky there. So, I'm not trying to be the guy that's like, bringing it down, but this is a game, by the way, if you look back on it, man, it was 17-3. Florida State had the ball at the 5-yard line, about a score, and they fumble the ball. If they get a touchdown, and then right after that, we get the ball back, and then we have the Montrell Johnson, big run to really put away the game there late. But, I mean, guys, this should have been a game, but it's weird fumbles, man. It's weird situations, and like I said, sometimes that needs to happen, especially in rivalry games. I mean, look at Georgia and Georgia Tech, right? Like, that stuff will happen, and we talked about it too, EJ, coming into this game, that this is a weird game, and anything can happen. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter what the records are. The records are thrown out the window, and Florida State honestly probably should have had this game, probably around 3 to 7 points in the 4th quarter, and they just fumbled that away. So, like I said, I'm not trying to, say that this isn't a good win. It's a good win, but we played like garbage on offense. We played like we didn't do a really good job, and we just got lucky at a lot of points. But man, that defensive line, that front 7, I mean, just dominated, dude. I mean, that freshman quarterback didn't know what was going on. It was unbelievable, and they were harassing that Florida State offensive line, for sure.
For sure. And kind of like, I think at the end of the day, we still have to remember, like, DJ's still a true freshman. So I think there was a lot of that I saw in this game. The mentality was a little bit different because we're supposed to win this game by 17 points. We're favored by 17 points, which is wild because if you would have told me at the end of the game last year, when Florida State beat us and went 13-0 and we were not even going to a bowl, if you were to say, oh, next year Florida's going to be a 17-point favorite against Florida State in Tallahassee, I would have been like, is this the Matrix and I'm waking up to the real world? Like, what? You know what I mean? But DJ, there's different parts of the field, deep, intermediate, short. And we've seen he's come into the game and he can hit those deep routes. And, in that Kentucky game, they were probably kind of like, oh shit, like we completely didn't expect that this guy can hit these passes that accurately. We did not set our defense up with that in mind. And as the season has gone along, teams have started to figure out what kind of personnel you need to put on the field to create as much pressure as you can with making sure those deep routes are covered at least at a pre-snap read standpoint, and then force DJ to go, okay, that's my one read, 1, 2, 3, 4. What are my progressions? And then you do your checkdowns. And DJ right now is kind of at a point where, okay, if that initial pass isn't there, um, I can do a check down in the flat, or I can scramble around and then hopefully somebody comes back to the ball. Florida State, their defensive strategy was, hey, let's just force him to do that the whole game. Let's just force him to, we're going to take away that deep shot. And we're going to put enough pressure because Florida State looked like they blitzed at least five guys pretty much every play, forcing us to, have to go through that sort of intra play, progression. And DJ just seemed a little bit off. He was a little bit inaccurate. It might have been the injury. Somebody said that he might have tweaked it a little bit more in the Ole Miss game. But to your point, like a really good quarterbacks and offensive coordinator can help you with, okay, let's figure out curl routes. Let's figure out comeback routes. Let's figure out like a deep dig in. We've never seen him throw these on time, on target over the middle. He's a little bit shy when it comes to throwing over the middle because he has thrown interceptions and he has had passes that have been a little bit too high. And when you throw too high over the middle, you number one expose your receiver to getting destroyed. You risk a tip ball that gets picked off, which has happened. And so he kind of shies away from that. But you've got to throw over the middle to force the defense to actually think about the middle because Florida State, they were vacating the middle. They were blitzing up front, covering the sidelines, the deep right side of the field, the deep left side of the field, and the middle was open. And when DJ had a couple of passes that were kind of the guys dropped the ball. I don't know if he lost his confidence or whatever, but it pretty much took away an entire aspect of the playbook. Um, I personally would have ran the ball a little bit more in this game. DJ had 22 pass attempts, which to me, honestly, is probably too, like five passes too many for him. He honestly he only needed 15 passes in this game to beat FSU. The way that we were running the football was also a little bit frustrating that, we would run the ball all the way down the field and then we throw that interception, into triple cover. We did like that was like a Jackson Dart like interception, by the way. Um, so to your point, there didn't seem to be um, a concerted strategy to anticipate how FSU was going to defend us. And then once we see how FSU is defending us, come up with a counter to react to that defense. We kind of played into their hands. And then at the end of the day, the running game is what saved us at the end of the day. It really wasn't DJ's arm, which was a little bit unfortunate to see because I really wanted to see him go off. Anthony Richardson, when he went to Gainesville a couple of years ago, had a phenomenal passing game. It was just our defense was so terrible we couldn't stop them from scoring, and they didn't turn it over. So, so
Yeah.
now you have a game where they just can't hold on to the ball. So I think to your point, if we get an offensive coordinator and we work on the full array of, intermediate, short game, deep routes, um, you don't have to worry about defenses setting up to defend a particular, quarterback who can only do so many different things. That coupled with the fact that DJ is also he's not trying to run. So now if he could run in this game, okay, now FSU has a little bit of a problem because the way that they were defending, if he's mobile and can actually get out the pocket and kill you with a 10, 15-yard run, okay, your defense doesn't really work. You've got to now maybe have a spy over the middle. But they were not covering the middle at all. And we sort of were like fighting against the wind to to move the ball through the air. But it was a good game plan by FSU. They obviously it's a rivalry game. They obviously wanted to perform as well as they could. But Florida was just a little bit too much on our defense. And Croman Hook, he's also a true freshman. I think he's got some promise. We could see we both talked about we think he'd probably be the starter. He knows how to throw the ball down the field a little bit more. Um, and Florida's secondary a little bit depleted. Castell didn't play a lot in this game. We had a lot of other guys playing in this game. Um, but yeah, Florida State, man, I'd love to see. I actually am interested in just following their team to see like how are they going to dig out of where they are right now. Um, that's crazy. Not that I care, but I just want to see what happens.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. So you said a couple things I want to talk about. And we can kind of lead into the defense here and talk about them. That interception that Lagway threw was definitely there was some kind of miscommunication with those two receivers. They had Marcus Burke in there, who hasn't seen any playing time this year, and he was actually the guy on the far left. So I don't know what he was doing in the game. I mean, he's good, but it was very I don't know what was. I think that was once again a senior thing that Billy was wanting to do because it's his last game, possibly as a Gator. But yeah, and you had two guys doing these go routes, and they ended up in the same exact place. So that's not a route combination that you do. I don't know if maybe there was a hot route, maybe Lagway, maybe there was miscommunication there. I don't know, but he was definitely trying to go not to Marcus Burke, but the receiver that was most in because he was trying to get DK. He was trying to get DK over the shoulder, which was by the way, perfect pass. Like it was beautiful, but DK was just confused because you had Marcus Burke right behind him, and he was like, "What's going on right now?" So that wasn't a. Yeah. It still could have been DJ Lagway's fault because of a hot route, but I don't even know if he has that much freedom in this offense yet. But yeah, definitely a miscommunication there. Don't know what that was about. But I would love to. Maybe I haven't listened to Billy Napier's press conference yet. After the game, I don't know if you have, EJ, but I don't know if he touched on that at all. But that is something that I would love to hear from him because yeah, since he runs the offense and calls the plays, I want to know whose fault that was because it's just a very weird situation. But yeah, you talked about Luke Cromanhook or Cromanhawk. The announcers were
they were terrible, by the way.
I know. I went back and watched the highlights, dude. I mean, they were terrible.
Dude, they were trash. Bro, and the refs.
Oh my God, that's something else I want to talk about. Let's get to that. So let me say this before I forget it. Luke Cromanhawk, Hook, whatever his name is, I'm gonna call him Cromanhook. I think going forward, I mean, not with Gus Malzahn as their offensive coordinator, which they just announced, which by the way, Florida State fans were not happy with. I don't know. At least the ones around us. I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know what's going to... But I'm telling you right now, Luke Cromanhook has a lot of promise as a quarterback.
He does.
Yeah, he really does. And he just looks like a natural guy back there. And I could see the Cromanhook and Lagway rivalry going on for about 2 to 3 years. And this being like a quarterback battle. I mean, he's nowhere near Lagway. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying I think Florida State is going to turn a corner. Like I said, with this Gus Malzahn hire, I don't know about that. We were talking about this before we started the podcast, me and EJ. I just think Gus Malzahn is 10 years too late. You know what I mean? I don't think he's with this new air raid, kind of style that college football is going to, and this keep away type game that, he was pretty good at as an OC and play caller. We see how that turned out at UCF. And he had R.J. Harvey there, one of the best running backs in the country, which he loves to run the ball, obviously. So I don't know, but I do feel like Florida State is going to turn a corner. They're stuck with Norvell. I think Norvell is a good coach. Like I do. I mean, look what he did with Memphis. You know what I mean? Look what he did even with look what he did with sorry, someone's calling me. with Florida State in his first few years of being there. You know what I mean? He really turned a corner with them. He got good talent there. I think he's going to turn a corner. I think he's going to get them back to where they need to be. I'm not saying a national championship team, but I think they're going to be really good, which I think is good for this rivalry anyway. And I think Luke Kromenhoek is going to be the guy going forward for them. He did make a lot of mistakes. You know what I mean? Obviously, no touch on passes over the middle, just like Lagway, right? Just not very comfortable there. A lot of freshman mistakes on passes. He did read the field pretty well. I will say that. He took what the defense was giving him. Really like that. He took a shot deep that the receiver did get behind her defense. And if that ball was not I wouldn't even say not even a half a yard, closer to the receiver, that's a catch. So it was a beautiful ball. Great spin on it. He just didn't have a lot of time in the pocket. He got sacked, 8 times in this game? Something insane. So I really like Luke Kromenhoek, number one. Number two, you mentioned the refs in this game. They were letting both sides play, so I let that kind of go in the second quarter, third quarter. But one of the wildest things I've never seen in my life was there was a play, which, by the way, there was a couple times where Luke Kromenhoek's going to the ground and he throws it, and it's obviously intentional grounding and they didn't call it, but that's a whole other thing. There was a time in this game where that happened, and they tackled him about 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and he threw the ball, but he was obviously down before he released the ball. Dude, I was way up by the top. I was against the brick wall, okay, at the top of the stadium, and even up there you could tell that his knee was down before he let go of that ball. One of the refs came up, put his foot down where it was, and was waving his hands like, hey, he's down right here. And the rest of the crew spotted the ball and started the next play. While that was going on, the ref that had that point pin where Luke Kromenhoek got down, he was waving his hands saying, hey, we need to talk this over. I've never seen that before. He was trying to get the other ref's attention, and then this guy's spotting the ball. They go back, the play starts, the ref's not even in the position he needs to be in for it to do his job. And he was trying to get bro, I don't know if you've ever seen that, EJ, but me and the rest of the crowd, even the Florida State fans, were like, what the hell's going on here? Like, this ref is spotting this ball down, which, by the way, was a big-time play. That's a 10-yard, 9 to 10-yard loss, waving his hands, trying to get the attention of the other refs, and then they go forward with the play. One of the weirdest things I've ever seen from a reffing standpoint, and any of the other, viewers that were at that game, I know you guys saw that too, because it was right in front of the Florida fans there. On that side of the end zone by the band, and it was weird, man. Like it was very interesting. So I don't know what that was about, because sometimes they do spot it just in case, you know what I mean, if they do want to review it or whatever, so they have that spot. But he was literally waving his hands, like saying, like, "Yo, like get over here," and then they just kept doing it. So once again, the stuff you see when you don't see on TV, but that you do see when you actually go to the games is really interesting. Because that was absolutely insane, man. Like even the Florida State fans were like, this is really weird. So anyway, going to the defense, Gators played really well in the front seven, man. I mean, these seniors had one hell of a day. I mean, you got Cam Jackson, you got Tyreek Sapp, you got Caleb Banks, you got Big Dez. They all did an amazing job, man. Pyburn was in there. Secondary had challenges, though. This is a very talented receiver core for Florida State. Obviously, they have more interceptions than touchdown passes this year, but there's a lot of talent on the outside there, and they were getting open. You know what I mean? We were playing that soft coverage that Ron Roberts loves to do, and we did that. So they had a lot of these quick hitches. They were put in great situations on third and short and second and short. But there was a lot of open guys, man, but wow, this front seven got to Luke Kromenhoek so much in this game. Just nonstop pressure, 5 fumbles. They were the difference in this game. There was times where he was going back to throw a ball, you know what I mean? And they get to a wide open guy, by the way, down the field on like a corner post or something. And the Gators get to him right in time. There was one play where it was a big-time third down, and there was a wide-open running back in the flat because we brought pressure. And, dude, there was no one literally 20 yards near this running back, and right as he goes to release the ball, we sack him for a big-time sack. So, man, our front seven has been saving us all year, and especially in these last 3 games, man. So, big shout-out to them. Our defensive line coach, linebackers coach, A lot of young guys playing. Got Miles Graham in there in this game a lot. You know what I mean? Just substituting a lot of guys as well. A lot of seniors played. Just it was a really really good sight to see, man. And they were really energetic, man. Austin Armstrong on the sideline going crazy. EJ, what did you see from this Gator defense, man? How was it? What did you take away from it?
I thought the defense was the reason we won the game. I mean, we've been in this sort of mini success streak, kind of this bend but don't break defense, with a splash of, high level sort of chaos plays where we get after the quarterback, we get sacks, and we get tackles for loss. Um, it looks like 27 different guys took a snap in this game on defense, which is, I think, tied for our season high. Caleb Banks, he was a little bit, I don't know if you saw him on the sideline, but he was a little bit gimpy. He only played um, he only played 15 snaps
Yeah.
total, um, which is wild because if you were to tell me, oh yeah, Caleb Banks, FSU is going to snap the ball. Well, technically they had 76 snaps, but from a rush and a pass attempt standpoint, they had 72 snaps. Um, he was only going to play 15 snaps out of 76, and Florida would get 8 sacks. I'd be like, wow, that's wild. Um, but Jaden Robinson and Cam Jackson both had 2 sacks. I love, love, love the new philosophy as to how they're trying to create pressure on the outside of the tackle by doing cornerback blitzes. So Sharif Denson came in on several um, outside blitz attempts to force the quarterback up into the pocket. And what that does is when you force the quarterback up into the pocket, you throw off his timing. So if there was a route where he's going to do a 3-step drop back and just deliver in rhythm, that play is completely gone because you're forcing him up into the pocket to now go to, second, third level, which Croman Hook did a couple times. Or he just said, bump it, I'm gonna just run, which he also did pretty successfully. He's a deceivingly good athlete. Jack Pyburn also when he comes off the edge with George Gums, even though those two guys typically will play outside linebacker, they'll line up in that star or buck position and come off the edge. They usually get pretty good pressure, especially our boy George Gums, who planted the flag, by the way. Love him. He's my hero. Uh,
Showing that right now.
I love George Gums. I love George Gums. Uh, he comes off that edge and they are firing off the ball. Um, last week when I went back and watched the Ole Miss highlights, I was kind of like, Will Miles, who does read and reaction, he made a comment that he thought that the Florida defensive line learned the Ole Miss snap count, which your snap count's always a little bit different on the road than it is at home because the noise. Um, he was like, "Oh, we knew the snap count. They were coming off the edge," and so I was kind of like, "Well, did we know the snap count in this game?" Because it seemed like there were several plays where we came off the edge and were immediately on his back, and he fumbled on the first drive, and they got it back. But we got him again, and his ball security wasn't really. Yeah, as a true freshman, I mean, you're not really gonna, you get hit by these 250-pound linebackers. What do you expect? But overall, I think we did not have to uh, devote a lot of starters to the defense. We didn't have to really play on pins and needles because I think we, just like Florida State, it was a vanilla. We're just going to blitz 5 guys and have everyone else back. We're not really going to play a man to man. They played a very soft coverage the entire game. It was not an aggressive coverage in the secondary, which is probably why we really didn't force a lot of interceptions. Although my boy number 7,
Bridges.
is it yeah, Triquez Bridges, who played the last 2 games, he's played the most snaps out of anybody. Um, he had a couple of interceptions that he dropped, that he could have, might have been a run back of some to some extent.
Hmm.
But overall, um, I think the bowl game will tell us a lot more about this defense than this Florida State game. I mean, Florida State, we saw the stats coming into this game. It just was a really terrible offense. I mean, offensive efficiency, they're coming in averaging 0.22 points per play. They left with 0.15 in this game, which is our best defensive performance of the season. 72 plays, 11 points. We were able to score 0.53 or no, 0.51 points per play, which you're outscoring them 3-1 every play, every snap. So it's you really don't have a chance. Combine that with 5 turnovers. Um, it's almost kind of like and the commentator, well, if Florida State didn't turn the ball over, they'd be in this game. And I'm kind of like, yeah, but this is what they do. They fumble the ball. They haven't thrown a lot of interceptions, but they turn the ball over in inexplicable parts of the field. Like they either fumble it like near inside their own red zone, giving the other team an easy touchdown, or they fumble it after a 12 play, 8-minute drive where they get the ball down to the 5-yard line and are about to make it a one-score game, and then you can't catch a pitch to the outside. Toafili. So, but that was Toafili. His head was complete. He was like looking at the end zone, and it was not a great pitch. The pitch should be in your chest.
Was that Toa Philly or was that the number three?
Was it? I thought it was Toaf. We'd have to go back and look.
Yeah. Either way, I agree. You got like because what he did is he wasn't even looking at the ball. He was literally already looking at the guys.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
insane.
Maybe it wasn't because Toafili is like a senior, right? I
Yeah.
thought maybe
Yeah.
he would have been like, okay, let me at least catch the pitch before I decide to run. I'm like, but the pitch was low. It wasn't a great pitch, but it's kind of like clearly you don't practice this play enough to be calling it. Or, I don't know, but it was just a terrible time to fumble the ball. And but anyway, um, our defense played really, really well. The bowl game is going to tell us a lot more about this team's 2025 prospects and needs from the transfer portal. We got a couple of recruits that we flipped. One guy that I'm really excited about, the linebacker from that was committed to Penn State. Um, Another like George Gums type of athlete. Except I don't think Gums was a 4-star. I think Gums was only a 3-star. Um, so now you're getting like George Gums, except taller, a little bit more athletic, played multiple sports. Um,
Where did George Gums come from? Because he was a transfer, wasn't he?
uh, we got to look up George Gums because that is our boy.
That's our
We
guy.
we got to put some respect on his name.
Honestly, man, that's
You
the
know what I'm
guy.
saying?
Oh yeah.
Oh, Northern Illinois. Okay. So this is why
Okay.
George Gums is so good. My boy is from Chicago, which, if you're from Chicago, you pull you a little hood when you go out when you go come off that edge. That's what I love.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he's a 3-star prospect. Uh, Edge, Simeon High School in Chicago, Illinois. Um, Looked like he transferred from Northern Illinois, which Northern Illinois beat Notre
Notre
Dame
Dame.
this year. So, I mean, they clearly had something going on, correct? But I mean, this kid, man, and in high school, he played wide receiver.
Dang.
So, this is why he's an athlete. But man, I, that's kind of what. Oh, let me talk one real quick about these refs. Florida State must be really terrible to be the most least penalized team in the history of college football. Literally zero penalties were. Well, they did throw the flag on FSU a couple times, but they were kind of BS because they called a hold on a sack. And so I'm kind of like, dude, why are you throwing a flag when we already sacked the guy? And so of course, we declined the penalty. But other than those, zero penalties called on Florida. I'm like, I've been alive for almost 30 something. I've never seen a game where there was not one penalty on one of the teams. So I'm
When the
kind of
other
like,
has 7.
and the other one has seven penalties. So I'm just like, is Florida State the most you have to be terrible. You have to be absolutely terrible to have zero penalties called on you and still get beat by multiple scores. Like I've never seen that. I've never. And back in the day, like in the '90s, early 2000s, when we played this game, it used to be the road team would get their conference officials. So the if we were playing in Tallahassee, we'd have SEC refs. If we're playing in uh Gainesville, we have ACC refs. Somewhere 5 or 6 years ago, they changed it to where the home team gets the conference. So we had ACC refs. These refs they were completely. I don't know if they'd never seen a football game. We had one play where Crum and Hawk is running and he slides and they spot the
Oh
ball
my
first
god.
down. And I'm kind of like, okay, idiots. You spot the ball where he starts his slide, which was 2 yards from the first down. And so they're like, the one ref is holding the ball. He's like, well, what are we doing, guys? What are we doing? And then they spot it. They say first down. And I'm like, how is that a first down? And then the next series, um, or maybe I think it was the same series, we blitz the quarterback, and number 17 just kind of like there's a light like in the face mask, like he was just pushing like this, and they call roughing the passer. I'm kind of like, okay, at that point, you are what you're doing is you are incentivizing actual penalties at that point. Like you're incentivizing. Okay, if you're gonna call me roughing the passer for like slapping your face mask, next time I should just take the guy completely out. I should just get my money's worth and lay him out completely after, and it's still a 15-yard penalty. So I'm sitting there like, that's roughing the passer in the ACC. Like, you guys are the softest conference I've ever seen. No wonder Miami can't win. So it's like, what the heck is going? These refs were terrible. And then the touchdown. Can we talk about the touchdown that FSU scored? Okay, so the rule is you go with the call on the field unless there is conclusive, definitive, explicit evidence that the call on the field is wrong or correct. We looked at multiple angles. I never saw the ball. It looked like you could assume that the ball was over the goal line because of where his head was and where we thought the ball was on his chest. You could say, okay, if the ball is here, it's a touchdown. But we never saw the actual ball over the goal line. And the ref comes back and says the call on the field is overturned. It's a touchdown. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, there was no. What angle did y'all look at to determine that was a touchdown? So these refs were complete. Now I was like, okay, whatever. They're not. Florida State's not going to come back and win. But at that point, it's 24-11. So in theory, they could.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just a terrible. These refs in the ACC, they are horrible. And I was thinking, the SEC, we have one crew that's really terrible. It was the one that came to the Ole Miss game.
Yeah.
But other than that, our refs are usually pretty good. And well, sometimes more than the ACC. But this crew was trash. Maybe like you have to be 2 games over 500 to get the good refs.
Yeah, these are the throwaways. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
these are like the reject ref crew. Like they were terrible.
Yeah, they were supposed to be doing Rice versus, someone else.
USF.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. No, like I said, EJ, they were so bad. Like I said, I've never in my life have ever seen a ref try to get the attention saying that, hey, his knee was down, and then the actual referee go spot the ball and say it's in play and the clock start. While this guy, by the way, the ball was snapped and the other ref still had his foot placed down where the ball was supposed to be spotted. I've never seen that in my life. I'm like, bro, blow your whistle or something. He's throwing his hands up. You can ask dude, it was insane. Now that's inexcusable. I don't care who you are. The FSU fans around us were saying, wait, what's that guy doing? He's supposed to be he wasn't the line judge.
Trash.
I don't know who he was. But it was the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life, man. And then yes, the spotting the ball, I agree that one was really bad. There was a couple other spots that they got really lucky with. Also, too, the fact, like I said, that there was two balls that were supposed to be oh my God, there was an illegal man downfield that they didn't call. He actually threw the ball away, and the offensive lineman was 7 yards down the field. And I'm like, how's that throwing the ball away when there's an offensive lineman 7 yards down the field? I've never seen such a blatant illegal man downfield ever in my life, man. There was that. There should have been 2 intentional groundings that they didn't call.
How did they not rule those intentional ground? I was just like going in my
The
head,
ball didn't go past the line of scrimmage.
It didn't go past the line of scrimmage, and there was nobody.
No. On
one of them, there was no FSU, unless they were like, well, it's the FSU sideline, so there's players over there. I was just like, he blatantly threw the ball out of bounds with no intention to complete the ball, and it's not intentional grounding.
Yeah,
I've never. These refs are trash in the ACC.
It was the worst officiated game I've ever seen in person. Because they genuinely, EJ, did not know what was happening. I'm not even saying that as a joke. They genuinely were not they were not cohesive at all. They did not know what was going on. They were absolutely clueless, just like the FSU coaching staff. But other than that, though,
Oh, and let me say this: if there's one profession that can be replaced by AI, if we can figure it out, it would be these damn refs. Okay. Yeah. Because put a damn AI chip in the ball and
that's smart.
Do the calls using AI.
Or let's get Elon Musk robots and put them out there. You know what I mean? No, yeah, I agree. And Josh Pate talks about this, and he just talked about it. It's these are guys that are just part-time refs. They have other jobs, you know what I mean, when it's not football season. And, it's also, too, conference by conference, there's different rules to officiating. There's literally different rules on what to call and what not to call and when to call it by conference, which doesn't make any sense. So it's so what do they do in the national championship? You know what I mean?
You're screwed.
So if you're getting one conference for the national championship, it's how are you supposed to, every national championship is going to be officiated differently based on who the ref crew is? That's crazy to me, man. It's the most, it's so lopsided. And like Josh Pate says, there needs to be a commissioner like the NBA and NFL. Somebody that, number one, that we can hate on. And number two, someone that's going to go in there and make these, what's the word I'm looking for? Just not, I guess nationwide is the right word. Nationwide rules that applies to every conference, which we're going to a Big Ten and SEC, conference thing anyway, where there's only 2 conferences. But yeah, I mean, just unreal. And the officiating this year in general has been horrendous. I mean, you look around all of the, not just the SEC, but every conference, man. I mean, even the Oklahoma State coach, Mike Gundy, even came out and said, "Dude, we got to get this figured out." You know what I'm saying? He's like, "This is unbelievable that we're you know that these different ref crews." Because he literally said the explanation for one of his games early on when there's a really bad call that lost him the game. Uh, the explanation he got from the refs were, "Hey, that's what we do here in this conference. Like that, if you go look at our record, that's literally that he said in the press conference. That's the explanation he got. That's insane. That's crazy." So yeah, we got to get it figured out. But yeah, I mean, just unreal. Terrible ref game. But our special teams did good. Jeremy Crenshaw had some beautiful punts in this game. Literally flipped the field. Like there was times where DJ Lagway got sacked at like the 15-yard line, in our own territory, and Jeremy Crenshaw punts it to the other 20. You're like, oh my God. Then you had the muff punt, you know what I mean, and all that as well, which was big by special teams. So, yeah, special teams did a really good job in this game. I still don't understand why Rocco Underwood fell on the ball instead of just running it in because we were only up by 2 scores. That was really weird to me.
Oh, you mean on the muff punt?
Yeah, he literally picked
So
it up and then fell.
so it's a stupid rule well, I think it's college and NFL that you can't advance a muffed kickoff or a muffed punt.
Oh,
Um,
I didn't know that.
yeah, so if you muff the punt, the best you can do is just recover it at the point of the muff. You can't advance it. Now, kickoffs are a little bit different. I'm not sure what the rule is for kickoffs. I'd have to look it up, but I just always assumed you couldn't advance them either.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the rule. So he fell down because he knew I can't run it back anyway. It'd probably been good for him to just run it back so everyone would learn the rule that the refs
Right.
would just call it down where he recovered it. But yeah,
Yeah, I didn't really understand that. Because yeah, there's guys all on the crowd that were like, "Yo, he fell down at the 5. Why are they calling it way back at like the 11, 12?" We were like, "What's going on?" So that makes a lot of sense. That I don't like that rule. That's kind of weird. I feel like
it's kind of stupid.
I feel like if you muff it, then you need to face the consequences of the fact that the defense could pick that up and go run it in. I don't know. Or at least the special teams unit. I mean, we didn't really touch a lot on it, but Montreal had a really good game, man. He's really just
Oh yeah.
gone crazy these past couple weeks. Really good to see. We're obviously really hype about Jaden Ball and Jacoby
Jaden
Jackson.
Ball, my
He's
gosh, that
insane,
is
unreal.
insane.
So we've been really focused on him, but I mean Montreal coming back from his injury, and having a couple. By the way, 2 explosive runs in the past couple of games. Like really, I mean, we haven't really seen this explosive nature from Montreal these past couple of years, and then he's just really brought it up. I think because it's if he's a redshirt senior and he's ready to go to the NFL, he's really wanting to shine. But yeah, I mean, just literally puts the game away. He puts the game away for us, and he's each of our running backs are very different. And with Montreal, it's like he's patient, but when he hits a gap, but like I'm trying to think of like who I should compare him to. He picks a gap and shoots through it. Jaden Ball's a guy who's like more of a Le'Veon Bell. You know what I'm saying? He's not gonna
Right.
he's not gonna pick a gap and go. He's gonna wait for the gap to open and then shoot through it. So the negative with that is if there's a little tiny gap and and if you're not just blowing through it right away and you're kind of being patient, letting a blocker get in front of you, you're not going to have a lot of big 70, 80-yard plays. But if you have a guy like Montreal who just sees the gap and goes, you know what I mean, then you can obviously have a big play out of that compared to not. So there's pros and cons to both, but they're both very unique runners and have done an amazing job this season, and especially in this past game. Like you said, 6 yards a carry by our guys, I think, right around there.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have
we're
it pulled
six.
up.
Yeah, six.
Yep.
Technically, if you take away the sacks, 7.1 yards a carry. But yeah, 99 yards for Montreal, 9.9 yards a carry on 10 carries, 65-yard touchdown run, and Jaden Boss 7.4 yards per attempt on 11 carries, had a 27-yarder. Um, and Jacoby Jackson, I mean, he's a junior. He also got 10 carries, 51 yards. Yeah, it just looked like they were just everyone's gonna get 10 carries,
Yeah.
Napier was like, okay, all 3 of y'all are gonna get 10 carries in this game. Um, each of them just had phenomenal games. And Jaden Baugh and Jacoby Jackson are like perfectly designed running backs because they're shorter. They got small, strong legs,
Mhm.
so you can't really get injured. You know, Montrell is a little bit taller. When you're a taller running back, you're a little bit more prone to injuries,
Yep.
just because of the way they're trying to tackle you. Um, but Ball, I mean, what incredible vision this guy has, running that ball. I'm very interested to see, and Coach Jaluk, our running backs coach, I think he's
Yep.
up for assistant coach of the year. He's got to be with losing Trevor Etienne. Montrell Johnson's hurt half the year.
Yep.
Now you're down to Trayshawn Webb. Trayon Webb is out for the year. So you're kind of like, okay, who the hell do we have? Baugh and Jackson, and these guys are like one of the best 1-2 punch in the SEC at this point.
Yep.
They've got to be.
Oh yeah.
Um, and just incredible work done by them. So next year when you get Webb back and you have Ball and Jackson technically can come back.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, we should have an elite running attack if your offensive line is improves. So
Well, yeah. Well, that and if they can improve their pass protection, because Webb is a great receiving back. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
you got a great receiver out there. You can just put out in the flat for Lagway to come down to. You got Ball, who's like you said, just strong but light on his feet. You know what I mean? Like he just
yeah,
he's so light. It's weird to describe. But yeah, I mean just getting through blocks and or tackles and what's great about him is like a play can go from being a 2-loss play to like a gain of 2, which is huge. That's a
right.
4-yard differential there, and he just somehow gets it. And it's a 2nd and 8 is way different than a 2nd and 12. And he makes that happen. So love Jaden Ball, always falling forward. Also, my biggest pet peeve with watching football games nowadays is when guys like are a yard short of a first down or they just get a first down, they run out of bounds. I hate that. I'm like, put your shoulder down and get a few. And Jaden Ball, what I love about him is he puts his shoulder down and he gets a few, dude.
Yeah.
And I love that, dude, because like I said, I don't know about you, EJ, but I hate it when I see guys just run out of bounds when they're like 2 yards away from a defender. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? Like those extra 2-3 yards can matter. I don't know. Maybe they're taught that, but if I'm the coach, dude, that's not happening. Um, but yeah, man, great game by the Gators. Like I said, we got lucky once again. Florida State honestly should have been up in this game. Maybe halfway through, they should have, if they took advantage of these big moments and didn't fumble the ball. I mean, they punt the ball how many times in this game? Twice.
Yeah, they didn't punt at all.
There
Well,
you go.
no. They did.
DK
They
had
did.
DK had the big return.
Yeah,
Early
I
on
think
in the
they
game.
punted twice. Yeah, they
Yeah,
punted twice.
2 times. And so they were, which by the way, their 2 best players are their punter and kicker, and they were
Yes.
getting down the field on us, man. And so look, I think we definitely have something to be happy about for Gator fans. Our defense is beat up, and we have great defensive play from our front seven, but just we need an offensive coordinator, and I think this game really showed that. We need different route combinations. We need cover beaters. We need something that we need picks. We need something that's gonna get receivers open, and we're not doing that. And it's gonna bite us, man. And if Napier doesn't get an offensive coordinator, next year is gonna be great at some games, and you're gonna see other games where his game plan's not working, and it's gonna be terrible. So I'm just saying, be ready for that if we don't get an OC.
They punted 5 times actually.
Oh,
Wow.
well, there you go. All right, they definitely didn't feel like it. All right, EJ, anything you want to say about this game before we move on from it?
Uh, it went as we sort of expected, right? 30s to the low teens, for Florida State. I, I this game really, I wanted this game to kind of tell us a lot about our team. It did tell us that defensively, Napier and Ron Roberts really is the only, is it Ron or Rob?
Ron.
Ron, like Ronald McDonald?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Ron Roberts is really the only new variable that was introduced. So we have to give him credit for whatever style of play in the fundamentals that we're playing with, because it seems like it's Austin Armstrong defensive plays with Ron Roberts fundamentals. And when you look at Ron Roberts, where he's been, he was at Auburn last year. Auburn's defense was really good last year. They were, and they were like middle of the pack SEC, but they tackled well. They were always in the right position. They
Yep.
played physical. They stopped the run. And it seems like that's what we're getting with this Florida team, a defense that tackles, that is not completely out of position, a defense that comes at you in waves. We tackle in swarms,
Yeah.
and we get leverage at the line of scrimmage. Last year, the last couple of years, when the other team would snap the ball, it's kind of like we're playing patty cake baker's man with the O line. Now we're just like, no, we got you. We're getting in there, and I'm like, where is it? Like, what happened to make this team play with their hair on fire? Um, so that was good. But this game does tell me one thing: when you're favored, do you perform differently when you're expected to win? And I kind of think we didn't really, because this game could have gone one or two ways. It could have gone, it's close and we still win kind of by the spread, and or we just really impress and humiliate FSU, right? And that would have made us feel like, okay, we got something here. We're overperforming. We're always overperforming where people expect us to be. This game, we just were right at where we're supposed to be. Like Ole Miss, we're supposed to lose by 10, 12, 2 touchdowns. We overperformed. LSU overperformed. This game, we were just like right at expectations. So I would love to see us continue to overperform. Um, that's why that bowl game is so important, because I kind of want to see, um, hopefully everyone plays, because that's the last thing that you want to see is, a Gasparilla Bowl, Las Vegas Bowl, half the team doesn't play. But it might not even matter this year because everyone that you bring in seems to still be doing pretty well.
Yeah.
So I would love to kind of see the bowl game and to see if we can continue to exceed expectations and play at a high level, on the defensive side of the ball. And on offense, the interesting thing about DJ Lagway is there are only certain defenses that can really do, you know, that can really hurt DJ. You've got to have great athletes. And that's the one thing Florida State does have. They have great athletes. They're fast. Ole Miss as well. Um, if in these bowl games, there's sometimes mismatches because, like, let's say we end up playing like Minnesota or somebody,
That'd be a great
or
game.
Iowa.
Yeah.
You know, these teams typically are well coached, they're in good position, but they don't have exceptional athletes that can cover a lot of ground really deceivingly, because like when DJ throws the ball, someone's not there when he's throwing it, but then all of a sudden a guy's there intercepting the ball. So because they're great athletes, they get back. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the bowl game. That's going to tell us a lot more about this team than the FSU game, unfortunately. But nevertheless, it's always great to get a win. The coffee much sweeter this morning.
There you go. Dude, I'm with you 100% on that. And here's my thing with Billy Napier. Like, how many wins does he have against any school that are big blowout wins? Remember we were talking about this last week, even against easy teams. And you look back on this year, this game probably should have been, like you said, a like 7 to 10 point win against a really bad FSU team. So that's my thing with Billy Napier is like, and what I want to see in the bowl game going forward, man, to set that standard for next year. Can we win this bowl game by 2-3 touchdowns? No matter who we play. Because West Virginia, who we're projected to play against, they're a good little team, right? It doesn't matter. We're going to be playing some good teams. From, what is it, the ACC, I think is what it usually is in like the Big 12. depending on what
It's
conference.
got to be weird this year because there's no Pac-12. So,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, I don't know. We'll be playing someone. But we're not going to be playing a bad team. So my point is can we win by 2 or 3 touchdowns? That's the only thing that literally, if Billy Napier can prove to me that as an offensive coordinator he can win big, then please do. You know what I mean? Like, if he does, then I'm like, you know what, Billy? You can be an offensive coordinator. I don't care. But he hasn't shown that. Why? Because he's not aggressive. You know what I mean? This is something that we were all saying. This is something all the Gator fans are saying in the stands. Hey, Billy, you're up by like 3 touchdowns at this point in the Florida State game. Can we take some shots down the field? Can we be aggressive? Can we do some stuff? But no, just like the Ole Miss game, run it. Give them multiple chances. Get Florida State back in the game with a touchdown. Then it's 11 to, whatever. They're only down by 2 touchdowns. So, like, I would love to see Billy just go crazy and be that, Steve Spurrier and just, be aggressive and go down the field and score. Even Mullen's a great example. What did he do? He scored. So I want to see that. I'm tired of these like close games. We were like, oh man, they might win this. Oh man, Florida State, they have a chance of coming back here. It's 17-3. They're inside the 5. This is crazy. Why can't we just win big against bad teams? I don't know. That's just my big thing. And I think that can all change if we get an offensive coordinator going forward here. But we'll see what happens. If not, I'm not going to be too happy. But, I still have optimism for Father DJ Lagway to make it happen.
Well, before I wanted to get your thoughts on the whole Norvell with 10 L's post-game tirade. I wanted to hear your thoughts. Did you see it live or did you have to see the replay? Like what?
What do you mean? What happened? You mean like the flag thing?
Yeah, he was a little pissy that we planted the flag.
Yeah.
Even though his own mascot spears his.
Yo, I got a video. I'm gonna send you the mascot spearing it. I'm gonna send that to you.
Did he spear it in the face?
Oh yeah. Yep. He got off the horse. He did this to both sides and then spears it, and then runs away and makes a guy come out, blow out the flame, and pick it up and take it away. It's so funny, so stupid. Which, by the way, didn't they used to do it on the horse? Like, he used to be on the horse and do it? And
yeah, so they don't do it on the horse anymore?
No, he gets off the horse now.
Oh wow, yeah. Maybe it's like a safety thing now because everything's safety. Bro. But yeah, back in the '90s, they were on the horse, and he would spike it on the horse like you're supposed to.
Right, he did that back when like Florida State was really good, like the national championship in what was it 2012 or whatever, 2013, 2014. And in 2022, the last game I went to at Florida State, he got off of the horse too, and I was pissed. I was like, dude, this sucks. And they just did it again. I was like, this is crazy. But yeah, no. So we left right before that happened. Just because I was wanting to beat, which I should have stayed because they were all smoking cigars on the field. It would have been cool. But dude, it was like 38 degrees. There was a wind chill. I was freezing. I'm like, I'm getting out of here. And to beat some traffic as well, getting out of Tallahassee, which we were able to do. But from what it looked like on the video and stuff, yeah, George Gums goes up, very similar to Ohio State, Michigan, gets it, slams it on the midfield. It was the Jordan logo that he did right on the midfield logo for Florida State, Chief Osceola, which, by the way, I live in Osceola County, which is pretty funny, in Central Florida, which, by the way, doesn't make a lot of sense because I think the Seminoles were only in, I don't think they were in the Tallahassee area.
No, they were
kind of
where you are.
Yeah, they were by me. So why are they anyway, there's a whole other tribe up there they can be, but they picked the Seminoles. Anyway, from what it looked like is Billy Napier went up to go shake Mike Norvell's hand at the end of the game. George Gums, our guy, goes up, plants the flag in the middle. Florida State players start coming over, talking a lot of stuff. And then when Billy Napier goes to shake Mike Norvell's hand, Mike Norvell says, yo, you need to get your players. And Billy Napier's like, yeah, whatever, so let me shake your hand. And then he doesn't shake his hand. He moves Billy Napier's hand out of the way. Billy Napier starts getting mad at him and says something to him. And then Billy Napier then kind of gets out his anger by running over and getting his guys away from the Florida State players. Then Mike Norvell goes over, rips the flag from one of our players, pushes one of our players, and then walks away. So this guy's the biggest crybaby ever because his team went 2-10. And then Billy Napier comes to the press conference after and goes, well, I just we can't do that again. We got to be a better team. These stupid little I hate that dude. Stop. Like it's so stupid. It's all he does. And I'm like, what are you doing, man? And his conferences can make you go to sleep, and he's just like, we can't do that. We got to be the bigger team at this point, and we got to do better going forward. And it's just like, Jesus, man. So it was just, I don't know. I commented on the post on one of the Gator accounts, and I was like, Billy, just talk some shit. Be the heel that Steve Spurrier was, please. But no, he's not gonna do that. He's gonna be the nice guy, the peacemaker. But whatever. But yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, dude, back in 2018 with Dan Mullen's first year, we got our first win over Florida State in a long time, and Chauncey Gardner holds up a cutoff Seminole head with Kodak Black.
I was waiting for the cutoff Seminole head. I was like,
So tell me how that's not worse than planting a flag. I don't care about either one of them. I think it's great. I was listening to a Michigan Ohio State fan. And after that happened, Gus Johnson, the announcer, who's great. I love watching him or listening to him as a commentator. He was going crazy. He was like, "Oh my God!" He's great to listen to. And at the end of the game, he was like, "This is disgusting. This is a terrible sight." And I'm like, and then one of the Michigan fans was like, "Bro, what do you mean terrible sight? This is college football. This is a rivalry. This is what it's supposed to be. Maybe not the players getting maced by the cops. That's a whole other story. But it was pretty cool to see, them fight and get that energy." So. Anyway, yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I think it's great. I think it's college football because Florida State was doing all kinds of stuff to us last year. So,
Yeah, to me, it is college football. I mean, the actual like getting punched in the face or whatever. I mean, that's you shouldn't be doing that. But, Norvell, it was just a frustrated guy who assumed going into this game, you kind of could tell by his reaction, he had no expectation to win this game. And he wanted to keep the game close, which for the most part they did, even though they fumbled the ball 5 times. This game should have been 62-0. If you have 5 turnovers in a game that you're favored to lose by 17, you should be losing by 40. But again, like you said, Napier is not going to run the score up. The reality is he looked like a little boy who doesn't know this rivalry at all. He is completely foreign to the Florida State rivalry. And for some reason thought that when your most hated rival beats you on your home field, that they should just walk off the field and not celebrate.
Right.
No, Norvell with 10 L's. Let me tell you, Florida State is a heated rivalry. And every time Florida State would beat us in the swamp and they would have the gator head kicking it around the football field like a soccer ball.
Oh,
I would be upset at that. But let me tell you something. I would be like, they deserve it. I mean, they came in and beat our butts on our home field.
Yep.
They deserve to celebrate and mock the Florida. That's the whole point of a rivalry, is you get to mock the other team when you win. You get to do stupid crap like plant a flag on you, which, like we said, you stab your own freaking mascot yourself. So when you lose and the other team does it, now it's a problem. So he's completely out of touch. Napier, I would have loved to see Napier just say, listen, we didn't try to fight him or anything, but if you don't want us planting the flag, don't fumble it 5 times. Okay.
Yeah.
And these fumbles weren't even forced fumbles. These were like,
terrible.
You just dropped the ball and gave us the ball, dude. So go teach your team how to catch a pitch, catch a punt, and we don't have to have this conversation.
Yep.
So now I kind of feel like Norvell's a little bit upset because he's a little child y'all have been getting destroyed all year. And we're trying to get your recruits. You're trying to get our recruits. We're trying to get, this is a rivalry.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, and speaking about how like crazy the rivalry is, the first thing I see when I walk in after I scan my ticket and walk through the gates is a guy that has a little Albert, like an old Albert, on like a leash and he's dragging him around and people are stepping on him, all the Florida State fans, and kicking him. And I'm like, this is great. This is what I love to see. You know what I mean?
Right. This is it.
Yeah,
Right.
you
That
know
is
what I
what
mean?
it's about.
Yeah, so I threw some band-aids on him, you know what I mean? Some alcohol, you know. He's like, "You're good, brother." But no, it's, you know, that's what makes it great. And I agree. You know, you're taking he's out of touch, and I think he's mad, like you said, you know, Norvell with 10 L's, and I think he's just you know, he's just emotional about what happened, and his players are as well. I mean, think about it. They went from being 13-0 to being 2-10 in 1 year.
That is an
more talent.
indictment. That is an indictment on you, Norvell.
Yeah.
How do you take a 13-0 team and turn it into the worst team in the power conference of all the power conferences? And then you get mad at us for planting a flag, and then people were saying he's shown more fight when we planted the flag than at any point during the season. Well,
True.
maybe we motivated him to actually like coach and
Yep.
develop players and actually have a vision for a culture of a winning team and get players that fit that culture as opposed to a culture of me. I want NIL. I want NIL. And oh, I got NIL. I don't give a shit about your team anymore. Like that's literally the FSU program right now.
Yeah.
So is Mike Norvell the one to change that culture? Who knows? But the way that he acted after this game just shows that to me, he's really not the guy that's going to change that culture because he doesn't even understand that this is a rivalry. And when you get your ass beat, the other team's going to mock you.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah,
like,
no, I agree. 'Cause
fuck you.
at least Ryan Day didn't go over and start anything after the Ohio State game. You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
it zoomed in on his face. You know what I mean? But he didn't go over and start stuff while his players were getting maced and all that. But yeah, he walked away. So I agree. It's a weird situation, and you know, I hope Florida State figures it out because I love a good rivalry and I like when this game means something, especially if this game can have playoff implications at the end of a year. That'd be amazing. But you know, that's just not where they are right now. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, there you go. Florida State game. Gators get the win, 31-11. Fun times in Tallahassee. Week 14, man, we picked 11 games. Big rivalry week. You know what I mean? A lot of playoff implications on the line, a lot of big stuff. So we're going to kind of dive through each and one of these. Let me read off the records real quick. I went 7-4. So that means all time I'm 26-29. EJ went 11-0 and is now 28-27 on the season. You went 11-0, bro. You got every single one right. Crazy.
You're lying.
You got every single. We're gonna go through each one. We're gonna talk about it, but you went 11-0, man. So now you're positive. You're 28-27. You're above me now. So I got to come back for conference championship week. We'll see what happens. Oh my God, we still got a lot. We got all the playoff games we got to do still. Jesus, there's a lot of football. All right. So Wisconsin at Minnesota. Wisconsin favored by 1.5. I love this Minnesota team. I just love it. They are very young, very talented. They're going to be a big team next year. And Minnesota wins 24-7. And we both picked Minnesota, and Minnesota gets it done, man. They get the what do they call it? The axe thing.
The axe.
Yeah, the big axe, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I mean just very balanced game by Minnesota, passing and running the football, and a good win for them. At their home stadium to send off the season.
Yeah, I love their coach. I forgot the guy's name.
The guy with the tie. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good young coach. And I did not trust Wisconsin's offense. Luke Fickell, the worst. I don't know what's wrong with him this year, but I had no faith he would actually call a game that gave Wisconsin a chance to actually move the ball. So, and that's exactly what happened in this game.
Yep.
Wisconsin just terrible on their home field. Terrible offense. 15 out of 32 passing of your quarterback. Why are you throwing the ball, Fickell, with a quarterback that can't complete a pass? It's mind-boggling. But you also couldn't run the ball in this game either. 1.6 yards a carry, pretty terrible.
Yeah,
So, Minnesota.
big time win for Minnesota. Next game we have Georgia versus Georgia Tech. Georgia
Woo!
favored by 20.5. This game, I believe it was 8 overtimes, right? Did we get, or 7? Yeah, 8
Eight,
overtimes.
eight overtimes.
That's one below the record of 9. Man, I mean, Haynes King had probably one of the best games I've ever seen from a player. This dude was 26 for 36, 303 yards, and then rushing the ball 24 carries, 110 yards, and 3 touchdowns. It was, I mean, just what. By the way, Georgia Tech was up 17-0 at halftime, and fans were leaving because this was in Sanford Stadium. Fans were leaving. They didn't want to see Georgia lose. This was insane, man. Their playoff hopes were done. This was just not great. And then Georgia comes back. They score 24 in the fourth quarter, 21 in the fourth quarter, and tie it up. And then, yeah, man, the overtime was great. I don't like that they then go to the 2-point conversion until someone loses. I think that's a stupid, overtime rule. I missed the Texas A&M and LSU game from a few years back where it was like 70-something to 70-something. It was just like, they kept getting touchdowns, and that's actually what made them change the overtime rule to what you get. It's 2 normal overtimes, and then you get into the just extra points. So I'm not a fan of that. I think they should just let them, keep going. Because they literally ran out. Kirby Smart even said at the end of the game that they ran out of 2-point conversion plays. Like, they literally ran out of them. They didn't have any more left, and they get it done there, man. What this really came down to is just Georgia being the better football team, being more talented and getting it done, man. But God, I watched a little bit of this game, and especially the last part. I was at Universal for the majority of it. I look out at my phone and it's 17-0, and I'm like, what's going on? What's going on in Athens? And then I watched the second half, and it was a crazy comeback for them. So, yeah, great game for Georgia. Crazy game.
Wow, Georgia Tech, just incredible effort. 563 yards, total yards in this game. Haynes King also leading passing at 303 yards, 24 carries, 110 yards for Haynes King. Incredible effort by him. They lost the game though on the fumble when he was running the ball, and then the Georgia player just came in and just smacked him, and he fumbled that ball. And to your
Was that
point,
targeting? Because people are saying it's a debate. I wouldn't throw a flag on that, but people are saying it's targeting.
did you see it?
Yes.
To me it wasn't targeting, because number one, he's not a defenseless player, so that goes out, and then is he leading with his helmet to the head neck area, and to me he did lower the head a little bit, but I still think he kept his face straight and hit the chest, and so I thought it was a good no call.
Mm-hmm.
The refs did have a couple of calls in this game that were pretty. This must have been ACC refs again, because
Yeah.
I mean they were terrible. But I didn't think it was targeting. I thought it was just a good, smart play. I mean, you gotta, if you're Georgia, the only way you can come back is if you force them to turn it over. And to your point, this was just a game where Georgia just was deeper, had more talent, and when you go into 8 overtimes, the team that's deepest is going to end up winning.
Yep.
But you should see the win probability. I've never seen a win probability chart they have on ESPN.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
it's like 100% Georgia Tech, 100% Georgia, 100% Georgia Tech, 100%. It was just going like this toward
Yep.
the end of the game, and just a wild game. Great game by Georgia Tech. They've got a bright future, Georgia Tech, because remember they did beat Miami. They beat FSU earlier in the year. If you were to tell me, okay, they're going to beat Miami, they're going to beat FSU, they're going to take Georgia into I don't even know, octuple overtime. Is that
Mm-hmm.
how you say it?
Yeah.
Um, at the beginning of the year, I'd be like, really? Good program.
Yeah. Crazy, crazy. If you look at the time of possession, Georgia Tech had it 37-22. Insane,
Doesn't
insane.
surprise me.
Yeah,
Dang.
really, really fun game, man. There from Georgia Tech. Next one we have Kansas goes to Baylor. This was a big game, man. Obviously we were. By the way, Baylor favored by 1.5. I thought Kansas was going to keep up this historic run of upsetting teams, and then but you said no, Baylor's going to go ahead and cover that 1.5 spread, and they did. They won 45-17. Good win by Baylor, man. They were just too much for Kansas, and that was known pretty early on in this game.
Yeah, Baylor. I had a feeling that the high for Kansas was going away. They didn't wear the what was the Toucan Sam helmets in this game. So you got to have the Toucan Sam helmets if you're going to win. And playing on the road was kind of tough. And the Baylor coach is a defensive guru. Baylor all the way.
Yeah, I remember looking at the stat line for this, and the quarterback for Baylor was 9 of 9 for like 170 yards and 3 touchdowns. It was insane. It was like, I was like, this is okay, sure. It looks like Baylor's going to run away with that. Next game we have Michigan upsets Ohio State in Columbus 13-10. This game was one of the weirdest back and forth games I've ever seen, man. I was driving to Tallahassee watching this one, and I mean everything from the beginning of the game to the end. I mean, just Ohio State, just they should have won this game. I mean, we're talking missed field goals, we're talking interceptions inside of the red zone for Michigan, and they kept making mistakes, and it was unreal, man. I mean, I don't know how Michigan stayed in this game. They had no what I'm looking for. I don't know. They just didn't deserve to be in this game the way that they were. With David Warren or Darren Warren, I think his name is, for Michigan, the quarterback, throwing for was it 9 of 16, 62 yards and 2 interceptions, and they somehow still won this football game. That right there tells you everything you need to know. Will Howard, he looks really good at some points and then really bad at others, and cannot make explosive plays to save his life. But man, he was throwing some beautiful balls in this game though too. So he's just a guy who you just don't know what to expect from him. He's very back and forth, and yeah, big win for Michigan. Ohio State not even going to the conference championship now because it's going to be Penn State and Oregon. Yeah, man, Ryan Day on the chopping block, not to mention the big fight at the end of this game, which was players getting maced in the face by cops. It was insane.
Yeah, I was watching this on the drive back from LA. Man, Ryan Day, buddy. They gave you $20 million to the loaded roster, best roster in the Big Ten. But you know what? I had a feeling this was going to happen because Kyle McCord, last year, their quarterback, I thought he was a pretty good little quarterback. And yeah, it was his first year starting. But the way the Ohio State fans treated him, he's trash. Get him out of here. He's trash. And I was kind of like, okay, this is his first year playing. Next year, when you revamp and get all these good, he's going to be a really good quarterback. And he's going to be another year into your system. And they ran him out of there. Now you bring in Will Howard, a guy that doesn't know Ohio State culture, has to relearn a new playbook, has to one season to do it. You're going to end up having the same exact performance from your quarterback as you did last year, as opposed to an evolution. And so it doesn't surprise me that now you play your fourth straight game against what is seemingly an overmatched Michigan team. When you look at the rosters and all the recruiting, Michigan roster for the fourth year in a row has not been nearly as talented from a recruiting standpoint as Ohio State, and you still get beat. You can't even get 250 yards of offense, Ryan Day, and you're an offensive guru, and you have Chip Kelly as your OC. What is wrong with you? This is the one game you're supposed to win. The game. You're playing it on your home field. You beat your rival, you validate your coaching record, you go to the Big Ten title in a game that actually people want to watch. Now, no one, Penn State versus Oregon, who the hell cares? So now, I mean, it's just absolute travesty. Now, to me, the guy's 47-1 versus anyone not named Michigan. So it's kind of like, how can you fire the guy?
Yeah.
You know? So they're in a tough spot. But you got beat by Sharon Moore, who is his first year. He's 6-5, losing games left and right. Texas comes in there, blows him off the field. And you can't beat, like, what have you should have been designing your team all season to beat Michigan. Just like Lane Kiffin said, we set our team up to beat Georgia. Like we forget everyone else on the schedule. If we can format our team to beat Georgia, we should be able to beat everybody else. You can't do that, and this is your 4th year, and they gave you $25 million? Dude, trash.
Yeah. No, and like you said, he's only had lost one game in regular season play his entire time as a head coach, not named Michigan. And
to Oregon, which was this year.
And but then you look at his postseason play, and he just can never get over that hump. You know what I mean? He can never get there, man. The national championship where he barely, the kicker just has one of the worst field goals I've ever seen. Remember where it was way off the side, looked like a video game. It's just he gets so close there and just cannot get over that hump. This was just a rough game, man. The play calling by Chip Kelly was horrendous in this game. It was so bad. It was bad the whole game, but then you get to the end of the game where you're down and you need to get a touchdown, and they're doing dump-offs on 3rd and 10. Like, what? Unreal.
Oh, and by the way,
unreal.
Michigan's leading tackler and their number 1 wide receiver who has the most catches and yards on the season, neither of those guys played. And they were like, okay, well, we're going to have a game plan even without our guys, and we're going to see what we can do. You can't even get Chip Kelly out of there. Ryan Day, I'd honestly keep Ryan Day because, I mean, the reality, who are you going to get? That's the thing.
Right.
Get rid of a coach. It's kind of like, who else are you going to bring in that's actually better?
Mm-hmm.
I think they're just going to have to live with the fact that they can't beat Michigan.
Right.
They're gonna lose to them every year.
Right.
That's just the reality. Next year you play in Ann Arbor. Sharon Moore is bringing in a top 10 class. It's a relatively young team this year.
They're gonna have a quarterback.
Now, a new So now, I don't even think you can beat them. If you couldn't beat them this year, you are a 4-touchdown favorite. That's what and I'm not even an Ohio State fan. You are a 4-touchdown favorite. Everything on the line, and you blow it away. This is trash. If I'm a business person, I would be like, Ryan Day, if we're not firing you, we're docking your pay or something, because we can't pay you $12 million a year, dude, and you can't even win the one game that anyone in this state cares about. And when you're a 4-touchdown favorite, that's what really makes us. And Vegas has a model where it says, okay, statistically, you should beat this team by X amount. Terrible.
Unreal. Crazy game. I mean, just so much fun, though, to watch. Both picked Michigan right there to cover. Next game, South Carolina at Clemson. Clemson favored by 2.5. I picked Clemson to cover and to win, and you picked South Carolina with the upset. South Carolina comes in and gets the dub. For some reason, I don't have it pulled up on my thing. But I believe, what was the final score? Was it like
17-14?
17-14. I mean, look, dude, Clemson was up in this game. Um, I was like, okay, Clemson actually might pull this off. They're at home. They got their big was it the big game orange pants on is what
Yep.
Dabo likes to call it, and yeah, big time game. Hold up, let me pull this up real quick. Um, yeah, they literally through the whole second half, they had like an 80% chance to win according to the ESPN win probability. But Lenoris Sanders, this guy, dude. I mean, you look at his passing stats, not great. 13 of 21, 160 yards, one interception. But God, 16 carries, 166 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And he put the game away with like breaking. Bro, I've never seen a quarterback be this slippery in the backfield. And I'm counting Johnny Manziel. I'm counting everyone. This dude will not go down because he's a big body guy. He's not small, right? So it's like he's quick, but he's like hard to bring down. Somebody compared him to Cam Newton, and I'm like, no, this isn't Cam Newton. This is like he's his own guy. Like he's just so, and to think that this guy is still this young man and going to be here for a while, dude. He's South Carolina this year's a scary team. Next year, man, whew, look out because Nick Harbor, a young guy, big body, but probably the fastest guy on the team, is a young guy. He's gonna be coming back. They got a lot of talent, man. Big game by South Carolina. If Miami wouldn't have lost, Clemson would have just lost their chances of making it to the ACC championship, and they're lucky that Miami threw that away. But what a game by South Carolina and Lenore Sanders.
Yeah, Sellers and Lagway are going to be competing for best quarterback in the SEC next year because they're both. Sellers has played more this year and he's not injured, so he's been able to get more reps. The thing about this game is Clemson controlled the game. In theory, they have a better roster, or on paper, I should say. And when you look at this matchup, I never saw a Clemson throughout the year has never been a team that's been able to separate. Like if I'm controlling the game, I should be able to, okay, 2 touchdown, 3 touchdown, knockout punch. Clemson, that is not who they are. Even against FSU, they only won that game by 2 scores when they were really dominating the game. So I'm kind of like, okay, if South Carolina was playing this game in Columbia, it's a beatdown. I think South Carolina wins by 2 at least because they are a high energy team, kind of like Florida. They will play with a lot of energy on defense, a lot of it'll be like an avalanche. But in Clemson, you had a chance, and Sellers did his thing on that last, I think it was like 20 seconds left in that or whatever. If you're Clemson and you control the game and it's only a 7-point game late, you allow one play and South Carolina can tie the game. And then one play, boom, they take the lead. And the South Carolina defense, both defenses played okay in the game. But Sellers just couldn't be contained. He almost has identical game stats to like what you would see with a true freshman, 13 out of 21, kind of like we see at Lagway. But like you said, he will not be sacked. And so if he can get out, break, contain, get the ball off, it's what are you going to do? Just tip your hat and just try to score more points than them. So South Carolina is a dangerous team and they're borderline. Honestly, to be honest with you, this team should be 10-1. They should be, or 11-1.
Yeah.
Because the 2 games they lost, okay, they got destroyed by Ole Miss because it's a bad matchup. Because Ole Miss can actually get after you with their D line and actually bring Sellers down. And then their defense can't match up with the Ole Miss offense. So that was a bad matchup. But everybody else, they should have beat Alabama. They choked that game away. Mm-hmm. And there was another, was it LSU?
LSU, they lost by like 2-3 points.
You choked that game away. So you win those games. And then there was one game where it was like, it wasn't pass. They threw it. It was a pick 6. I think it was LSU.
Yep.
And they were like, it's roughing the passer. They call them for roughing the pass, or illegal blindside block on Nussmeier, which it was. I mean, you can thank UCF for why that rule is in place because they did a blindside block on Burrow and in that bowl game a few years ago, and then ever since that play, they came out with this rule.
So
So
stupid. It's
thank
it's the worst. I hate it. I hate it because we had the same thing
so
in the Gator game. So stupid.
yeah, yeah. So thank you UCF for destroying college football with that rule. But anyway, if you don't have those two plays, South Carolina is 11-1 in the SEC championship game at this point.
Hmm.
So this is a very good team. Uh, Surprise team of the year in the SEC. Now they did have a little bit, more of a favorable schedule than Florida or Georgia did. But so next year maybe it'll be a little bit tougher. But I'm happy we didn't have to play them this year.
That's exactly what I told my dad. I was like, bro, we would have gotten destroyed
Yeah,
early
they
on
are.
by this team.
Yeah, yeah. If we would have played them, and so yeah. But great job by South Carolina.
Yeah, huge win there by the Gamecocks. Next game we have is Arizona State favored by 7.5 at Arizona. We both picked Arizona State to cover and win, and they did, 49-7. I mean, not even close. Really impressive win, though, because Arizona is a physical team. So good win by Arizona State.
Yeah, great win by her. Nothing to say here other than Arizona State is a hot team right now,
Hmm.
playing extremely well. Will they be in the Big 12 title game? They should be.
Uh, uh,
They,
uh,
it's hard to
no.
know.
Oh, yeah, they are. Sorry, yeah, they're playing Iowa State.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So Arizona State, they had to have at least 700 yards in this game because I'm watching the game. I'm like, deep bomb, touchdown, 50-yard run. And Arizona's just like, huh? So just a terrible game by them. Arizona State they're going to be a tough team to contend with.
Yeah.
And they got a young coach, that young guy, love him.
And they also got that young quarterback that they have, man. That's going to be there for a while. So,
Levitt.
yeah,
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 he's
he's
good.
good. He's good, man. So yeah, they're gonna do well there.
And
Um,
just like that one, got any more of those Arizona State receivers? You
yeah,
remember that? Remember
yeah,
that
they're
meme?
because they do. Yeah, they. I mean, we got Pearsall and Badger, bro. And listen, there's a good guy they have there now, man.
Dude, we got Pearsall and Badger from Arizona State. Arizona State is raw.
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
Yep. No,
Yes.
they know how to produce receivers because they also had what's the one 49ers receiver? Oh man, he got hurt, but he had the big paycheck at the beginning of the season. I can't think of him right now. But yeah, they know how to develop some guys. Oh, Ayuk, Brandon Ayuk, it's insane.
Oh,
Um,
oh yeah, yeah, I remember him.
yeah, it
He
was
was at
him and
Arizona
Jaden
State.
Daniels. Him
Wow.
and Jaden Daniels that one year were crazy before he went to LSU. It's
Wow.
nuts.
Okay.
But yeah, good win by them. Next one, Syracuse versus Miami. Well, Miami
Oh,
at Syracuse. Miami favored by 10.5. We both picked Syracuse to cover and win, and they did. Syracuse wins 42-38. I was not able to watch this game too much, but I was too worried about making the game to get to Tallahassee. But I did look at my dad, and I said, hey, this is going to be probably a game in the 30s and 40s, and it's exactly what it was. I mean, Miami doesn't have a good secondary. Syracuse is Syracuse, and Miami has a great quarterback, so I knew that they were going to be able to put points on each other. I just remember Syracuse being down by a couple scores late, and yeah, they somehow come back and get the win. So big win. What did you watch? What did you see viewing this game, EJ?
yeah. So I did watch. I did watch the game. Fran Brown is a Syracuse head coach. Spicy, energetic, really good coach. Like this guy knows how to coach football. Like he just immediately came in and set this team up at key positions to be able to compete. He goes out, they bring in Kyle McCord, who was the Ohio State quarterback that they ran off, by the way. That's one thing I did not like about Ohio State. They ran off a quarterback that was I thought was good. He was his first year, but Syracuse gets this guy And Kyle McCord doesn't have all that 5-star talent around him at Syracuse. I call him Silly Cuse.
Yeah.
And is able to just produce game in, game out. When he was in the game against this Miami defense, which has fallen off a cliff since the Florida game, maybe because
Well, we just made them look good.
yeah, we made them look a lot better than what they are. I mean, just to be, that's why I was like, or Carrier Dome, Cristobal is going to choke. Fran Brown is a good coach. Kyle McCord is a good quarterback, underrated. You cannot just Cam Ward your way through this game. You're going to have to actually play complementary full defense. And every time Syracuse got the ball, they moved down into scoring position. And so I believe Syracuse, the craziest thing about this game was I didn't start watching it until it was 21-0 Miami. Miami like
Yeah.
bing bang boom 21-0 and I'm like, "Oh, okay, maybe I was wrong." And then all of a sudden Kyle McCord wakes up and they like I was like, if you give them the ball back, it's over. They're scoring on your weak defense.
Mm-hmm.
This was an incredible comeback. Silly Cuse got silly with it.
I just saw the fumble. I just saw the fumble from I think it was Xavier Restrepo catches the ball.
Yeah.
And Syracuse guy rips it out and just runs
They
it back.
stripped him. Yeah,
That's insane.
yeah.
That
was
crazy.
insane. That was insane.
Wow. What a
Syracuse.
game.
Let me tell you something. Fran Brown, I think he used to coach at Georgia. I gotta look it up. I remember him coaching at Georgia, and ever since he left, Georgia's been a little bit iffy on the defense. Okay.
Okay.
Kind of like when Kirby Smart left Alabama
Yeah.
and went to Georgia. Alabama's defense was never the same. Fran Brown. This is a guy, I'm telling you right now, he's going to be up for some elite jobs because this guy just knows. There's just some people that just know football, and he's a young coach. And me, when you're watching the game, you're kind of like, man, they should not run the ball. That cornerback should not do that. And every time they would flip the camera over to Fran Brown, he's like cussing somebody out. Exactly what I was thinking in my head. Like, why the hell is this guy out here? I was like, okay, this guy knows football. Like, I really like this guy. So I'm telling you, Syracuse, as long as you have Fran Brown, y'all will be above 500 competing in the ACC. Great hire.
He's also young, 42 years old. He was never an actual offensive coordinator, or he's more of a defensive guy, so he never was a defensive coordinator. But yeah, he literally started his head coaching career in 2010, which is only 14 years ago at a high school, and then worked his way up through Temple and Baylor, working on DBs, back to Temple, and then to Rutgers, and then Georgia with the DBs from 22 to 23 with the national championship teams back to back. Or no, sorry, that was 21 and 22, I think, for Georgia. But definitely on a national championship team for them, and then gets the head coaching job at Syracuse. So, yeah, huge. I mean, he's killing it, man. I mean, how fast he's come up is crazy. He said something about not taking showers, though, so that's kind of weird. But other than that, he's a cool guy.
Yeah, he did say that. I was like, oh, maybe.
That's a little interesting, but we'll keep it going.
He'll take a shower after this game because they won.
Exactly, that's what he said. Yeah. Big game for them. Notre Dame favored by 6.5 at USC. We both picked Notre Dame to cover and win, and they do. They win 49-35. This is a game that's way closer than what the score says because they threw 2 pick sixes at the end of the game. USC did, but USC was fighting. USC was literally on their way to get up late, and then they throw a pick six, and then they get another chance. They throw another pick six, and then it's over. This is an incredible win for Notre Dame. They earned so much respect from me. This USC team's a dangerous team. You look at their past games, they have like a combined point total of like with their losses of like they've lost by like a total of like 17 points or like 10 points, something crazy on all their losses. And they're a good little team, man. USC should probably be 10-2 or 11-1. So this is a big win for Notre Dame. Love their running back, dirty. Price, dirty. Leonard, I'm still not sold on his passing, but he made some good passes in this game. Just an insane game, man, from Notre Dame. Earned a lot of respect for me. You'll see that when we talk about our top 12 rankings.
Yeah, Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman, again, I think has brought to Notre Dame what they didn't have with Brian Kelly, and that's just a physical, like they're a physical team. And Riley Leonard, I think, is a better fit for them than, even though I love Sam Hartman. I think Sam Hartman, he was a little too short, but he was a really good passer. But Riley Leonard gives you that Tim Tebow style running the ball up the middle with the quarterback, like hard nose, and then the team plays more physical because Riley Leonard's out there.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing about Notre Dame though is they portal in their quarterbacks. That's Freeman's strategy. It'll be interesting to see if it pays off. And what I mean by that is you portal in a guy that's there for 1 year, and then the next year you portal in another guy. So I don't know if that strategy is going to work because you got to have a guy that's there more than a year to really be confident that he's going to, win you you know, go all the way.
Yeah.
The crazy thing about Notre Dame is because they're not in a conference, they can't be in the top four, which is the stupidest. God, whoever came up with this playoff bracket, we'll talk about, they're the dumbest person on earth. Notre Dame should definitely be a top 4 seed. But because they're not in a conference,
They
they're
need
not
to be in
going
a
to get
conference though too. That's the dumbest thing that you can choose not to be in one. I think that's the stupidest thing ever. But
Yeah, it is kind of yeah. Maybe I think they in basketball, I think they're in the ACC.
yeah,
So
every other sport they're in literally the ACC, and that's what's so weird. It's like I just feel like it's easier.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you can get away with
Yeah.
doing like really bad non-conference games and not have to worry about a conference championship game of hurting your chances of having your top 10 seed. So that's what I don't like is the fact that what I mean, you kind of get a little bit of a I don't know. It's just easier. You don't got to worry about tough games every once in a while. I'm not a fan of that, but whatever.
Yeah, they probably should be in a conference. But you know, great game by Notre Dame. Really good team. They are going to be actually a lot of people are going to be, oh, Notre Dame's overrated. I don't know about that.
I heard a lot
I'd
of
love to
respect.
see Notre Dame versus Penn State. I think that would be a very evenly matched game. That would be a really good game.
I agree. And just to see that Notre Dame offense versus that Penn State defense, I think is the big matchup in that game. I think that'd be a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
I would love that game.
Would love
That
it.
would be a great game.
So we'll see what happens. But I agree. I don't think they're overrated. I think this game showed it. Next one we have is Auburn at Bama. Bama favored by 12.5. Bama gets it done. They win 28-14. I didn't watch this game, but I mean, just looking at the stats, Jalen Milroe, once again, whenever he rushes for more than 100 yards, they always win. Whenever he rushes for more than 50 yards, they always win. You look at their 3 losses. He cannot run the football in those games. And, he did it here, and they got the win there in their home stadium, but not by a lot.
Yeah, Iron Bowl. This is a rivalry.
Yep.
Actually, I thought I was a little scared there that they weren't going to cover because it was 28-6. I was like, okay, there's the over. And then Auburn got a touchdown, 2-point conversion. I was like, uh-oh. But Alabama holds on. Just a weird season for Alabama. 9-3, 2 inexplicable losses. But yeah, great game. It's just so crazy thinking about the SEC. Like Auburn brings in a top 10 class every year. You have Hugh Freeze as a coach. You're a really good team, or you have a good roster, but you just lose all these. You have a tough schedule, lose all these games. Tough sledding.
Yeah, really, really weird for them. Next game we have is California at SMU. SMU favored by 11.5. We both picked SMU. SMU gets the gets the win, 38-6. Yeah, huge win for them. Cal's a very physical team, scary team. They've showed up in weird games and put up a fight. But SMU, just their defense showing up. Their offense with Kevin Jennings looking amazing, 20 of 30, 2 touchdowns. And Preston Stone comes into their backup that was their starter last year and plays pretty well as well. They were able to run the ball. It's a great win by SMU. Very excited to see them in the conference championship this week against Clemson.
Yeah, great win by SMU. Very excited to see them. They're high flying offense. Jennings, great quarterback. Wow, this is SMU in the ACC championship.
First year they come over and it's insane, man. They went weren't they in like the AAC last year?
Yeah.
What a jump into a Power 5 conference, now Power 4, and you're already in the championship game against Clemson, and I think, are they favored? SMU's favored. Insane.
They gotta be.
Wow.
But one interesting thing about that Cal game is Florida State had 0 penalties called on them in our game. SMU 17 penalties. They're one of the more penalized teams. So
Oh my
kind of
God.
like, okay,
Damn.
17 penalties, and then FSU got 0. And this is still the ACC, right? So I'm like, how is the best team that is 11-1 getting 17 penalties, and your worst team has 0 penalties? Like something is just not right there. You would think that the refs, like, okay, we haven't called it. Like Billy Napier, that's one thing. He's not fiery. Like to me, I would run over to the ref and be like, throw a flag on them. I don't even care if they didn't do it. Like you can't have a game where you call 0 penalties on a team.
Crazy.
Like that is wild. 17 penalties
That's
for
insane.
SMU.
I don't think I've ever seen 17 penalties before. Oh my God.
Right. There was like the game took so long because like every time it's a flag. And so I'm just like, I've never seen this before, but they still dominated the game. So
yeah, that's a huge win for them, man. The fact that they overcame that with the 17 penalties for 137 yards. Jesus. All right, next game we have, and last game, Texas favored by 7.5, going to Texas A&M. The first time in 14 years these teams have played. I've personally have never seen it before, and I was not able to watch much of this game because I was in Tallahassee at Doak Campbell Stadium, but I was able to see the last bit of this game because we got out early. And man, the score is not an indication of how this game went. I mean, Texas dominated this game from beginning to end. The big interception there, by Quinn Ewers, and it's a run back by Texas A&M and a couple things, but yeah, I mean, this was an easy win for Texas, and it wasn't even really close. And then, you had the couple of turnovers by Texas A&M. Marcel Reed, a guy who just is not ready yet to be on a stage like this. And we saw that multiple times with some really bad decision-making by him in this game. But yeah, huge win for Texas. And honestly, I think this game is just, I earned a lot of respect for Texas from this game. I will say that.
Yeah, this was a bad matchup for Texas A&M, is why I was like pretty decently confident that Texas would win. This was kind of like South Carolina versus Ole Miss. Like you've got a Texas A&M offense that relies on a mobile quarterback to run to open up the passing game. Texas's defense, their front seven, will completely negate his ability to run. And now you actually have to be a team that can read defenses and go through progressions and throw the ball down the field to compete against Texas. You can't do that. So now you can't score or move the ball at all. Now your defense is good at stopping the run, right? And stopping, being physical at the line of scrimmage. Well, Texas really doesn't need to run the ball to be successful. They've got Quinn Ewers that can throw the ball and move the ball down the field. So it was a bad matchup for Texas A&M offensively and defensively. I was kind of like, this game's going to get out of hand. But Texas turned the ball over, allowing the Aggies to stay in the game. I think A&M got a pick six in this game
Yeah,
where it could have been a lot
it was
worse.
like a 92-yard pick six.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. 90 yard, 92 yard pick six to stay relevant in the game.
Hmm.
But this was just not a good matchup. Now, Georgia versus Texas is a completely different game
Yep.
because now you have a team that has a quarterback that doesn't rely on his legs. He actually tries to sit back and read the defense and throw. So that's a much better
Tries.
matchup against Texas. He,
Yeah.
yeah, tries. Um, and if ETN's playing, maybe you have a running game. Frazier, their running back, I'm worried that he's going to fumble it.
Hmm.
And then the Georgia defense is a little bit more balanced than Texas A&M, so I think you can have a little bit more resistance to the passing game.
Hmm.
So that's a much better matchup than this game against so and I think Georgia, knowing Kirby Smart, he probably didn't even practice for Georgia Tech. They probably practiced the whole week for Texas and
Hmm.
just said, we just got to come out here and street ball and win this game against Georgia Tech, y'all. We
Yep.
have the best roster in the country. Street ball their ass. And what happened?
Straight ball.
You ended up getting you ended up almost losing.
Yeah.
So I expect a Georgia team to be, I know we're not supposed to talk about this, but that's going to be a lot better matchup than people think.
I agree. I mean, yeah. I mean, look what happened last time. you know, they literally destroyed Texas. I agree. I'm totally with you there. Um, yeah, big game. You had Texas right. I picked Texas A&M to keep it between or under that 7.5, and that didn't happen. So RIP. Like I said, EJ. I mean, undefeated this week. I was 7-4. You're 28-27. I'm 26-29. We need to have some big things happen this week for me. It's championship
Dang,
week though,
that is
baby.
crazy. That
Yeah,
is crazy.
you dominated. You dominated, dude. Huge, huge. You should have put some money down, man. You should have been a little gambler this weekend, dude. Yeah, big time job right there. Now, championship week. This is huge. Or actually, should we talk about our top 12, top 15 now, and then dive into that? What do you think?
Uh, sure.
Let's do that. Let's talk about our top 12. I did my top 15 just in case if losses do happen. You know what I mean? The teams that I kind of have right behind it.
Oh, smart,
But
smart.
but we'll just talk about our top 12. So let me pull up yours real quick from the thing so I can have this
Oh, I don't I
Oh,
don't think I
you just had the picks up. That's what it was.
well, I put my top 12 in there later. I can email it to you now, but we could just talk through it if you
Okay.
want.
Yeah, we can just talk through it then. Um
Or I can share my screen.
no, it's fine because I
Okay.
don't have mine on like written out either. I just have it on my paper. All right, so let's go ahead and start. EJ, go ahead and give me your top 12 from the bottom up if you want. Um maybe some of the people right outside the top 12 if you have any on mind as well, but let me just hear your top 12 and some of the teams you have in there.
So my top 12 is not dependent on the rules of their stupid ass. You got to be a
Me
conference
neither.
champion.
Yeah.
So it's just a straight up top top 12. Um, Let me see. Maybe I can do this. So my top 15, I didn't even put the records on there because all records people, college football fans, the media is telling you that all three lost teams are equal. They're not. Okay, spoiler alert. Anyway, I got South Carolina at number 12. I think technically they would not be in. I suspect if, a conference champion bumps them out, but I think they would be in based on the fact that Boise State is in there. So,
Right.
okay. So South Carolina, Arizona State, I have at number 11, assuming they beat Iowa State. If they don't beat Iowa State, then Iowa State. This is why I don't like that stupid rule. If Iowa State upsets Arizona State, they jump to a number 4 seed. right? Or is it I think it's the four
It's the
highest.
top, yeah, the four highest ranks. So no, if Boise State wins, then Boise State will go in over Arizona State, depending on
Got it.
who's higher
Got it.
ranked, which is
Got it.
weird.
Got it. Got it. So if Boise State wins, they go all the way to potentially a number 3 seed because Clemson. Okay, let's say Clemson beats SMU,
Yeah.
which is a nightmare, but let's say they do. They would be a number 3 seed in this bracket, and they're not
Yeah.
even on my poll right now.
Yeah.
So that is why this top, it should just be if you win your conference, you get in, but you're not necessarily a top 4 seed. The fact that you're winning the conference means you're a number 4 seed. It it to your point, which I really like your point earlier, which is we should just have two big major conferences. Okay, if we had two major conferences and you won it, okay, and you got a top 2 seed, that makes sense because everyone's competing against each other.
Right.
But in this environment, you should just automatically be in, but you should not be guaranteed a 4 seed. But anyway, Boise State number 10, Indiana 9, Ohio State 8. I bumped Ohio State all the way down to number 8. They were number 2 in my previous iteration, but after losing to Michigan, I was just like, get your ass out the top. Tennessee, Tennessee, they're not they just don't excite you,
Yeah.
but they still win. And that's what matters. They have a great defense, a quarterback that can move the ball. Tennessee's number 7. Penn State, I have them at number 6. I still I really like the Penn State defense. I just don't think their offense is explosive enough and they rely too much on their defense to dominate. And when your defense is not able to completely stop the other team, you've got problems. So I got Penn State at 6,
Okay.
Georgia at 5, SMU at 4. Assuming SMU beats Clemson, which I really hope they do. Notre Dame at number 3. Now, Notre Dame, based on these rules, I don't think they can be in the top 3
No.
because they're not in a conference.
Nope.
So that's dumb, but whatever. I still think they should be number 3. Texas is number 2, assuming they beat Georgia. And then Oregon is number 1. Well, it's not assuming they beat Georgia. It'll be interesting to see what they do to Georgia if they lose to Texas because everyone will see, well, Georgia lost 3 games, so they should be dropped to number 15. I'm like, no. Oregon, clearly the only undefeated team, should clearly be number 1.
Right.
So in this ranking, you would have Ohio State versus Indiana rematch, 8 versus 9. You'd have Georgia versus South Carolina, 5-12. That's
Jesus.
crazy. You would have Tennessee versus Boise State in the 7-10, and you'd have Penn State versus Arizona State in the 6-11. Then you'd have Oregon would play the winner of Indiana, Ohio State, which would be interesting because that this would be really wild. You'd have SMU play the winner of Georgia, South Carolina.
Whew.
Texas would play the winner of Tennessee versus Boise State. And then, well, in this bracket, I have Notre Dame, which they wouldn't be there, but they would play the winner of Penn State versus Arizona State. Now, technically, I think Notre Dame would probably end up being a number 6 seed just because they will bump them behind the top 4, just how things will work out.
Sure.
But that's how I have the seedings. I have dropped, and some people say, you can't drop Miami. I'm like, okay, first of all, Miami didn't even make to the ACC championship game. Okay, so spoiler alert, Kane fans. Yeah, you beat Florida like a drum in the first game of the season. It'd be a completely different game if we played tomorrow.
Yep.
And number two, I predicted you after that game to go 13-0 or 12-0. And you every single game is coming down to the wire because you have no defense. So, no, you should not be in the top 12. You should not be going to the playoff. And you probably won't now that you lost to Syracuse. Hell, Syracuse probably deserves to go more than you do. They got pretty much the same record.
Yeah.
So you're out. Alabama. Here's where people will start getting really upset. Alabama's 9-3. South Carolina's 9-3. Neither are in the SEC championship game. But Alabama got lucky as hell and beat South Carolina 27-25. And so
Crazy
people
game.
will say, in a crazy game, and so people will say, Alabama should be in the playoff because they beat South Carolina. I mean, is that a rule? I don't think it's a rule. So South Carolina is definitely, like, if you're ranking the teams, like, okay, who's the best team right now? South Carolina should be number 12. I mean, there's no debate. Ole Miss, you had a chance to be in there, but you're one of the third to the last team out. Ole Miss, sorry, but your whole team's probably going to opt out of the bowl game, and you're going to look like trash. But that's what happens. That's what happens when you lose on the road. So, and you should have beat Kentucky. Kentucky is terrible. I thought we were doing something when we beat them, and Louisville ran over them like a damn freight train.
That was crazy. And
you couldn't even beat Kentucky, Lane Kiffin? Trash. This is the top 12.
There you go. I like it. Yeah, and like you said, man, there's some weird things that could happen here. You know what I'm saying? Like South Carolina, could sneak in. Boise State obviously has to win. Ohio State looks like they're going to make it in. Penn State against Oregon. If Penn State gets destroyed, how far are you dropping them? If Georgia gets destroyed by Texas, how far are you dropping them?
Right.
If SMU gets destroyed by Clemson, what do you do? There's some weird games here, man.
If Georgia, so to your point, if Georgia gets destroyed by Texas, then you'll have Ole Miss fans. Sorry. Ole Miss fans coming out of the woodworks. We lost 3 games and they lost 3 games and we beat them 28-10. We should be over Georgia. Yeah. That's what you're going to have. And then we have to sit back and say, well, you didn't play in that conference championship game. Well, Lane Kiffin said you should be in the conference championship game anyway. This is what we're going to have to deal with.
Yep. Yeah. Well, there's in my top 12, I have a team that's over a team that the other team beat. You know what I mean? So like you said, it doesn't. It's hard to. It's really, but then it's like, okay, well, if that's the logic you're using, then why is NIU not ranked above Notre Dame, right? Like,
correct.
You gotta look at everything here. So,
correct.
I have my
Oh, you got your top 12?
Yeah. When you were doing that, I was typing mine out actually. So
okay,
let
perfect.
me find out, how do I share my screen? Okay, this right here.
You go to below share screen. Yep.
Okay,
love it. I see it.
All right. So let me go ahead and add this real quick.
Oh wow! I like your top 12.
Yeah. I tried. Let me get this up for everyone to see, and boom. All right, so everyone's looking at it right now. Here's what we got. Let me also make this full screen. All right, whatever. It's not showing our faces, but it's okay. All right, so when you look at my top 15 that I have here, we're going to kind of go through it. Starting at the bottom with Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss deserves to be top 15, even though that they had a couple really, rough games. I think when you look below them, it's like, who the hell deserves to be above them? Not a lot. You know what I mean? Once you get out of the top 8, 7, it's like, ugh. You know what I mean? Like, do some of these, it's weird, man. And even Tennessee being number 7, I think both of our number 7s feels weird to me. But do you really put all these other teams above them? I don't know. Anyway, Ole Miss is number 15 for me. 14 South Carolina. They're a good team. They're a different team. Like you said, they should be 11-1. They're not, so you have to look at why they're not. But I think that a really impressive win over a big rivalry game at Clemson. Clemson wearing their big orange pants and take the L. So big win for South Carolina there. That's why they're at 4. Arizona State, a team that had a few really rough wins, barely won against some teams that you kind of gotta look at that again real quick and be like, hey, what's that over there? You know what I mean? Kind of a double take. But they're a different team now. You know what I mean? The team in September is not the team in November, and I think the Arizona State's a great example of that. Florida's a great example of that. So Arizona State on fire, but I just can't really put them above Clemson. Clemson's just they're a good football team. They competed with the South Carolina team that I don't know. I just think you have to put Clemson up there, man. They've been pretty dominant the most of the season. Outside of the Georgia game, they've played pretty well. They've had a good kind of comeback season. It just, I don't know. Maybe you could flip-flop Arizona State and Clemson, but Clemson, just because of talent reasons, I got to put them in the top 12. I think I was thinking like, okay, if it was Clemson versus Arizona State kind of one-on-one, right? Who do I think would win? I mean, just talent alone, I think Clemson just has a little bit more to offer. But, that's kind of my reasoning for putting that there. Next one is number 11. We have Boise State. But you have to put Boise State up there, I think, for me. They've been dominant all year. They almost beat Oregon. Ashton Genty puts over 200 yards on the Oregon defense, man. They're a different group, so I think you got to put them there. But I'm not going to put them above Miami, just because Miami, even though they, haven't really had a tough schedule, I don't think they have a. Do they have a win on a top 25 team? I don't think so.
They don't have a win over any ranked teams.
Yeah, so you have to look at that and be like, that's weird. And they've had some really, close games. But that firepower of that offense, I think, could compete with teams like Boise State, could compete with teams like Clemson. So I have to put them up there. It's a weird year, man. Number 9's Indiana. Look, Indiana just destroyed Purdue. Big bounce back game. Obviously, once again, another team that hasn't really proven themselves. But I feel like in a playoff bracket, they could get some wins. You know what I'm saying? I feel like Indiana could fight with Miami with their defense alone. I feel like Indiana could fight with Boise State, could fight with Clemson. That's why they're there at number 9 for me. Number 8's SMU. SMU, they're a good, well-rounded football team. But once again, haven't really proven themselves this year too much. Had a really big win, obviously, this past week, but I don't know, a team that I just don't feel comfortable putting above Tennessee, above Georgia, above some of these teams. So I think that's why they're number 8 for me. Number 7 is Tennessee. Tennessee, good team. But when it comes to Tennessee, if you just play the run and force Nico to throw the ball down the field, they're not scoring more than 10 points. I don't know why more teams have not done that. They're a very vulnerable team. But it's like, man, do you really put SMU? I guess you could probably flip SMU and Tennessee. But Tennessee has some really good wins too, man. That you have to look at. Now, 6 and above is a different bracket, a different level of football being played by these guys. It's not even close, which is why my 6-team playoff that I talk about on how they should have done it, I think is proven with this. Maybe 8-team if you want to throw some teams in there that could get some upsets like SMU and Tennessee. Maybe Indiana might slip in there. But I think a 6-team is once again this year's proven that there's not 12 teams that deserve to be in a playoff. Georgia, really good talented team, really good team, destroyed number 2 Texas for me. I don't know how you look at Georgia and not say they shouldn't be in the playoff. I don't know even if they lose against Texas, how do you say they shouldn't be in the playoff? Doesn't really make sense to me. They're a really talented team, can beat anybody on the field, counting Oregon. I really like this Georgia team. But then they have losses like Ole Miss, and you're like, it's weird. Number 5, Ohio State. I didn't drop them too much. Obviously, really bad loss against Michigan. But they've also had some really good games. They beat Penn State, a team that we have in the top 4, a team that's looking really good, and they beat them recently. I think when Ohio State's head is in a game, they can win any game. They just beat also Indiana, destroyed Indiana. Ohio State's a good football team. When they're in it, when they're not, they're not. So I got to put them at 5. 4 is Penn State, a team that lost to Ohio State, but a team that's had a really good win against Minnesota. Minnesota's probably their best win on the year, though. Who else have they won against? You know what I mean? They really haven't. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a big Penn State guy, but they are talented. They have been winning. And that Minnesota game alone is what's making me put them in the top 4. If not, they're probably from the 8-5 range. So a big win there for Penn State going into Minnesota and getting that done. Number 3, Notre Dame, a team that we both have at number 3, a team that's just jumped up. They're just dominant. I mean, a really good win against USC. They beat Texas A&M early on in the season. This is a scary Notre Dame team. They are vulnerable. Their defense can be taken advantage of. But they are physical, and they just, I mean, and they're vulnerable also in the sense of if you can stop their run and force Riley Leonard to throw the ball, you will beat them. We saw that against NIU early on in the season. So get to Riley Leonard, make him uncomfortable, make him throw the ball down the field consistently, and you win against them. So that's a big vulnerability with them, but they're so dominant. Can you stop their run is the question with those 2 really good running backs back there that are going to play in the NFL. Number 2 is Texas. Obviously, their Georgia loss is what's keeping them behind number 1 undefeated Oregon for me. But that's my top 15. This next year is going to be really interesting to look, or not next year, sorry. This next week's going to be really interesting to look at with these games because it's like, if Boise State loses, then you're sneaking in Arizona State. But if Clemson loses to SMU, how far up do you put SMU? Do you put South Carolina in then at that point? What do you do with Tennessee? Do you drop Tennessee a little bit because some of these other teams are winning conference championships? Then you got Miami. What do you do with Miami? Right? If Georgia loses by a lot to Texas, where do you put a 3-loss Georgia team at? If Penn State loses, what good win do they have? The 2 big teams that they've won, they've lost against. So where do you put Penn State at? If Arizona State wins the Big 12, do you sneak them in? If every other team wins up there, I don't know, man. It's a fun year, but it's also absolute hell for the playoff committee to work on. Let me go ahead and take this off the short faces again. And it's absolute hell for the committee to figure out. So yeah, I mean, just that's my top 15. It was really hard to do, like I said, outside of the top 6 because out of the 12 teams don't deserve a playoff, but that's just my opinion.
Love it. Yeah, it's going to be a wild finish. I mean, in the Big 12, you had 1, 2, 3, 4. You had 4 teams finish at 7-2 in the conference. And so you have this tiebreaker that says that Arizona State and Iowa State are the 2 teams that are going to go to the championship game. So then you have to say, okay, in the Big 12 and the ACC, which I think we can both agree, SEC and Big 10, all 4 of those teams are in regardless of the outcome of the game, I would assume.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's necessarily the case with the ACC and the Big 12 because SMU and Clemson, if Clemson, the winner is in, is the loser in? That's the question. Same with Arizona State, Iowa State.
Mm-hmm.
We know the winner is in. Is the loser in?
Right.
Because the one that loses is going to have 3 losses. And then they're going to say, well, Alabama is going to be able to get in because they're better than Iowa State or, so.
Yeah.
That's the question. So when hopefully they'll make some changes into next year's playoff, but I think what the committee needs to do, they need to come out with some hard guiding principles about the top 12. Like, okay, if you make the conference championship game and you lose it, depending on if someone else wins their conference championship game that was behind you, you can't drop more than one or two spots. That would let us know a lot. Like if they came out with a rule like that and said, okay, if you lose your conference championship game and your number, like what they did to Georgia last year was criminal
Yeah.
because Georgia, I think they were number one, right? They were number
They were
one.
undefeated.
They were 12-0, number one. They lose a last second touchdown game to a really good Alabama team. And now you drop them to number six.
Which is why there should be a 16 playoff. Crazy. So that's a great question you brought up, EJ, and that's something that Josh Pate talks about. Do you penalize a team for making the conference championship if they lose? And if so, what if they lose by 3? What if they lose by a game-winning field goal for the other team? What if they lose by 1 point? Do you then drop them 4 or 5 spots out of the playoff? You're right. It's like it. But then at the same time, I'm like, Josh Pate's a guy who thinks that no, you should not penalize them at all. But I'm like, I think you should with some of these teams, right? Because it's the first time they're playing good teams. So like, but then what's the balance?
Yeah. I would say it depends. Like if you go to your conference championship game and get absolutely dog walked and prove on a national scale.
Yep.
I had too much turkey. I'm on a scale right now. Yeah, I'm weighing myself.
we all were there.
Yeah, I'm on a scale. If you prove on a national scale that you suck, okay, it's politics. Politically, you're gonna look like you don't deserve to be in. Like you were given this opportunity and you showed the rest of America you're not really a playoff team. Like unless you're undefeated and then get blown out,
right,
then okay, maybe you have an argument. But you prove you didn't. Now, what also happens is, what if you get injured? Like what if the what's a majigger Dylan Gabriel, Oregon quarterback. What if he gets injured like Jordan Travis? Okay. Well, the committee can just and they lose. Well, what's the committee going to do with Oregon? Are they keeping them in the top? Well, you can't be in the top 4 since you're not a conference champion. You don't know what that is. Is that the same undefeated Oregon team that you're? So there needs to be some principles that can give people some sanity around what the committee is going to do, because Lane Kiffin and all these guys, they bring up great points, and the committee, well, it's going to be, the committee chairman, they have these committee chairmen. There's a new guy every year, which is why it makes it chaotic.
There's a new guy every year?
Yeah, there's a new committee chairman every year.
That's crazy.
Just like in basketball, there's a new chairman every year. And it's like, well, we're looking at the rankings and seeing the strength of schedule.
That's
and
crazy.
Blah, 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 blah. So the thing is, we don't know the principles. The only thing that we can assume is the rankings should not change materially following the outcomes of those games, assuming there's something dramatic that happens, like a key injury to your starting quarterback, or you get destroyed. If it's a relatively close game and the favorite wins, let's just assume the favorite wins, the top 12 should, in theory, remain the same. But what's I'm telling you, what's going to happen is you're going to have one of these teams. Let me see. You're going to have one of these conference teams like Arizona State or Clemson may lose. Now, if Clemson loses, I think they're completely out, because at that point,
you have to throw 4
losses.
You have to.
Yeah, you have 4 losses. You just lost 2 games in a row. You're completely out. People are going to say, well, like look at SMU. Let's take a look at SMU. SMU right now, I put them at number 4 because I was kind of like, they won 10 games. SMU, if they lose to Clemson, to me, it's a bad loss. You think more highly of Clemson than I do. Mm-hmm. Clemson, to me, if they were in the SEC, they remind me of Missouri. Like,
okay,
good. They're a good team, but I'm not like blown away. SMU, if they lose to Clemson, does SMU deserve to be in? Because to me, it's a bad loss, and you lost 2 games, and now you did beat Louisville and Pittsburgh. Okay. But to me, who are you putting in at that point, Logan? Are you putting in Alabama
Right.
or are you putting in SMU?
That's a great point, because then are you going to put then Miami in over SMU, even though Miami's a team that missed out
Exactly.
on it? Yeah, it's rough,
Exactly.
man. It's rough.
Exactly. Do you put in Miami
That's
over
insane.
SMU? And then you're going to have the SMU Mustangs coming out of the woodworks. Everyone's an SMU fan at that point. They're going to say, what the hell?
Yeah.
We went 11-1 and made the championship game, and you kicked us out. And they're gonna be like, "Well, you lost to Clemson."
Yeah.
So, Clemson, you shouldn't have lost to Clemson.
That's insane, man. I cannot wait, because next week what we're gonna do after the conference championships is, before they do the final college football playoff ranking reveal next Tuesday, we're gonna come in and we're gonna do our bracket and our ranking on who we think should be in, and it's gonna get crazy. It's gonna be a big conversation.
It's gonna get crazy. And
I'm excited.
We let me tell you something. The committee is bound to F up. Just so y'all know, they're bound to screw something up, and we're gonna be there to call them out.
I think the best case scenario for the least amount of chaos would be to have. You probably want. I think no matter what Georgia's in. Okay, so let's just say Georgia does lose, Georgia's still in. So then you got to go, okay, then what about Penn State and Oregon? No matter what happens there, I think both teams are in. So then you go to the ACC. You got SMU and you got Clemson. You want SMU to win that one, so there's no conversation there. You then have Boise State, UNLV. You want Boise State to win that game. That is, let me look at all the games. That is... Oh, then you got Arizona State and Iowa State. Then you want, no matter what, people are going to be like, okay, well, yeah, if SMU beats Clemson, the Arizona State will go in. So I think.
Well, one interesting thing about your poll, you didn't have a Big 12 team in the top 12. I don't think.
No, because I think if Arizona State, no matter what with Clemson and SMU, I think Arizona State will sneak in. Because I listen, like I said, the reason I didn't put Arizona State in the top 12 is, man, they've looked rough throughout this season at a lot of different times, and I just can't, even though they're a different team now, like I said, I can't just put them in there because of that. But they're
gonna have to earn it.
They're gonna have to earn it. Right. So here's my thing. If Arizona State goes and beats Iowa State, a team that's very physical, very rough, Matt Campbell's doing well there, I think Arizona State will shoot up for me. I think they'll be top 10. But they have to get a win here, and they have to do it well. And this is a big time for them. So yeah, I think that's why I don't have them up there.
Well, technically, at the time of play, Arizona State has 3 wins over that were ranked at the time they played. Now, I don't think they're ranked now. Like, they beat Utah.
Mm-hmm.
Then they beat Kansas State.
Mm-hmm.
Both those teams were ranked number 16. And then they beat BYU, who was number 14.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, Utah is not really that great, but somehow they beat UCF by 2 touchdowns when UCF outgained them 3-1 in total yards.
Yeah, crazy.
But honestly, I picked Colorado to win the Big 12. I don't know how that. What the hell is the tiebreaker that Colorado's not in there? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
How was Iowa State? Did Iowa State beat Colorado?
Yeah, no, it was all based off of that Iowa State game that they played. I also might just be champion or conference wins. Well, I don't know, but something happened.
I don't see Iowa State did not play Colorado,
so it's definitely like just conference wins then.
Iowa State did not play Colorado. Iowa State also did not play Arizona State.
Yeah, right now what it says is Colorado. Oof. Colorado's actually behind BYU as well. They all have the same Big 12 record, but Arizona State and Iowa State are both 10-2. BYU's also 10-2. Colorado's 9-3.
So for Colorado, was it? Well, they lost to Nebraska. Well, Nebraska's not in the Big 12.
Right, but that's one of their. But they're saying that they've won more games. Arizona State's won more games, and they're basing it off the overall record, I think. Which is, I'm not a fan of that, but I'm just saying I think that's what they're doing that for. I think Colorado's a better team than Iowa State. Arizona State, I think they're both evenly matched. I think that's a really good game. That's what I was wanting to see, was that conference championship. But
Yeah, the fact that Colorado's not in the Big 12 title game has me a little confused because you're only supposed to go off of the conference record, and I'm just trying to figure out what the tiebreaker. Usually, what the tiebreaker might be is, your winning percentage against the top again. Because what happens is they say, okay, like in the SEC basketball, to find out who the seeds are, they say, okay, overall record, who's got the best record. If multiple teams have the same record, then they say, okay, your winning percentage versus the number one team. Okay, well, then you would say, if any of the teams played any of the top four teams and actually won, then that team is automatically number one. So,
right.
like, did Arizona State play either Colorado, BYU, or Iowa State?
Arizona State lost to BYU, I believe.
Arizona State lost to BYU.
I think. Let me see. No, sorry. Arizona State won 28-23.
Okay, all right. So that is why Arizona State's in, because what they do is they say, okay, what is your winning percentage versus the top team to figure out who's number two? They say, what's your winning percentage against the top seed? And then if you didn't play the top seed, or if it's the same, then they say, what's your winning percentage against the number 2 seed, the number 3 seed, the number 4 seed?
They also beat Kansas State too. Arizona State did.
So they beat Kansas State, and so Arizona State's win over BYU is why they're in. And then Iowa State must have either beaten BYU or,
let me see,
Colorado or Baylor. Did they beat Baylor? Iowa State
beat Kansas State. They beat Baylor.
Okay, so then Iowa State is in because they beat Baylor, who's technically like the 5th seed. So yeah, so Colorado doesn't have any wins against Arizona State, BYU, Iowa State, or Baylor. No, they beat Baylor. So Iowa State, how are they in over Colorado is what I'm trying to figure out. They're in because they beat BYU.
It's weird. It's really weird.
We have to. We're going to Google this, but
yeah,
at the end of the day, it's going to get pretty. That's why I just like divisions. Like, just have 2 divisions and just the division champ. But then people complain about that. They'll be like, "Well, the
this
West
one's
is
stronger
better
than that one." Yeah.
I'm like, okay, but at least you know how to make the conference championship game where you don't have the BS tiebreaker.
Yeah, there's pros and cons with both. I don't know how I feel about it yet. I want to see the SEC without the standings really play out a few years, but I agree. It's weird. It's different for sure. Yeah. It's gonna be fun, man. Like I said, it's really gonna come down to these conference championship games, which we're about to pick, and we'll see what happens with that, man. So we're really gonna dive into it next week. It's gonna be fun. Cool. Let's dive into these week 14 picks, baby.
Oh,
good. Yes, sir. Conference championship week. We're here. Usually this is getting close to the end of the year, but we still have 16 college football games to be played. It's insane. So let's go ahead and dive into these, man. AAC championship. Tulane at Army. Tulane favored by 4.5. These first few games are at home stadiums because, it's some of the conferences, they don't have neutral sites. So this will be played at Army. I'm going to pick Tulane to win and to cover here. Tulane's been a very good team this year. Obviously had a little bit of a rough game. This past week, I believe is what it was. Yeah, against Memphis. On Thursday night on Thanksgiving, watched it. sucks. But other than that, though, man, they've had a really good year. Lost to Oklahoma early on, lost to Kansas State as well. But those are two teams that are feisty. I mean, every other game they won when they were supposed to win, and really dominated offensively and defensively. Beat a good Louisiana team. So I'm a Tulane guy here, even though Army has been playing well. But who has Army really beat? When we look at them.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Tulane to cover. Tulane just Army's a really good team, but I think at the end of the day, uh, let me see here. Tulane, they just have a little bit too much firepower, and um, defensively they can really get after the passer. So
Mhm.
I think how that game's going to go is if Tulane gets a lead and then Army has to run their way back into you're not really going to be able to do that. And so you got to be able to throw the ball, stop the clock. Army can only really play these games if it's tied. And so I'm going to go Tulane to cover, but I think it's going to be close. I'm going to say Tulane wins by a touchdown.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, it's at Army. It's gonna be cold. You know what I mean? So I think that's I think that's a good pick. We'll see what happens there. UNLV at Boise State for the Mountain West Conference Championship. This is going to be a huge game, man. These two teams already played earlier. I think we talked about them having a rematch in this conference later on, and here it is, man. The previous game, Boise State won 29-24, scored late. UNLV, man, had that game in the bag. It's just Boise State. Listen, you got Ashton Genty, and you also have Maddox Madsen, a guy that has been pretty consistent this year. But UNLV ran the ball and was pretty balanced in that game. This is going to be at Boise State, though, man, on the blue turf. On the blue turf, probably in the all blues. Big game here. Ashton Genty's last game, probably at his stadium. In Boise, man. Boise favored by 3.5. The key for Boise here is to just not let UNLV run the ball. If you can stop them running the football and force their quarterback to throw the ball, he will make mistakes. He's not great. He's good, but I'm just saying they like to rely on the run game throughout this season. So I think if you do that, Boise will win. Man, 3.5, though, is a tough number. I think Boise State will win, but will they cover the 3.5? Screw it. I think they will. Boise State wins this game. Big game for them. They're in the playoff.
Oh, the football gods want Boise State to win this game. Uh, Honestly, this is one of those games where I'm just kind of like, I could definitely see some voodoo,
It's going to be a great game.
crazy UNLV strips the ball and wins the game. And now it's like, is Boise State even going to the playoff? But I'm gonna pick Boise State. 3.5.
It's such a bad number, dude.
Give me Boise State to cover. I just think UNLV is a good matchup for them, I guess, because they're a very physical team, and Boise State looks to exploit you with their running game, and I just think that's going to be tough to do against UNLV. But Boise State cover 24-20.
There you go. That's here right there at that line, but that's good. I like it. Next one we have Iowa State versus Arizona State, the Big 12 championship. Arizona State favored. Where to see Arizona State in the Big 12? Favored by 2.5. This will not be on a neutral. Or sorry, it will be on a neutral site, not at a home stadium. Arizona State favored by 2.5. Look, I think it's gonna be a good game, man. Iowa State, grindy team, keeps games very close. Even the ones that they've lost, they've been close. My thing with them is their defense has been really sketchy all year, and you have an Arizona State offense that loves to throw the ball down the field, an Arizona State offense that has a great quarterback. They can run the football. They can really take control of this game. I'm going to say Arizona State covers here. The 2.5 number, I think this will be a very close game because Iowa State keeps it close. So Arizona State might win by 3 points, maybe 4, maybe 7, but not more than 10. It'll be a close game, but I think they cover.
Oh, this is another one of those sneaky games. Anytime you have any team from Iowa, you can never predict their game because whatever you think is going to happen, the complete opposite typically happens. But I'm just so bought into Arizona State right now. I really think this team is on a roll. Arizona State's going to cover. They're going to win this game, and they're going to cruise into that playoff. Sun Devils dancing in the sun.
There you go.
Winning the Big 12, their first year in it.
Insane. Insane. And that might be the same right here with Clemson versus SMU. Played, of course, in the Carolina Panthers Stadium for the ACC Championship. SMU favored by 2.5.
Oof.
SMU's first time in the ACC. Clemson's been here before, multiple times. And because of that, I think Clemson's going to win this game. I think they're going to cover that. I think they're going to win it. I think they're going to shock some people. If you look at paper, if you look at stats, you probably pick SMU. But like I said, SMU hasn't been they haven't been at this stage. This game is played in the Carolinas. You know what I mean? A lot of Clemson fans will be there. It's going to be a little chilly. It's going to be a hard-fought game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. SMU's defense is really good. Clemson's offense has not been able to find that explosive nature that it wants, but I think they're going to run Cade Klubnik. I think he's going to find some of his good receivers on the outside, good young receivers. I think Phil Maffa's going to get some carries. I think he's going to do enough. I think field goals this game will be field goal galore. I think you're going to see a lot of that. And I think this Clemson defense is going to, it's definitely going to show some problems for this SMU offense. So I think Clemson wins this football game.
This might be the first time that we're differing, my friend.
There you go.
Listen, I completely see what you see. I think Clemson, from a roster standpoint, they got better players. They should not have any excuse losing this game. But SMU destiny, okay? Team of destiny. Clemson, listen, you didn't embrace the portal. Now all of a sudden you want to embrace the portal, okay? Klubnik, he just does not. I've been trying to give him every game to just be like, okay, take the top off. Go hammer time. They just haven't been able to do it. So I just think in this game, I can totally see a game where all of a sudden Clemson looks like Superman out there and they end up winning the game. But I'm going to say team of destiny, SMU. They win it by a field goal. Mustangs take it home.
I respect it. You're right. They haven't been able to do it. Clemson has not been able to get over that hump of explosive plays. Happens every once in a while, but not consistent enough. So I think that's a good pick. Next one we have Penn State versus Oregon. Oregon favored by 3.5. Big Ten championship. So weird to see that. This is a big game, but I don't even have to think about this one. I think Oregon will cover. I think they'll win. I think early on Penn State will show problems to Oregon, man. They've gotten off to some slow starts. You know what I mean? Going back to week 1, even against Idaho, right? They've gotten kind of getting gear. They have done a better job at late of getting off a little bit faster, but still a little slow. So I would not be surprised if Penn State's up 10-7 at halftime in this game. But I think second half, Dylan Gabriel, this running back group, these receivers on the outside for Oregon. Oregon has a very physical defense. Listen, I don't like Drew Aller. I don't think he's really that great of a quarterback. I think he's okay. I think he's literally an average quarterback. I don't think he's nothing more than that. And I think this Oregon defense and it's DJ Uga, whatever his name is. His brother is on the defensive line for Oregon. He's a monster. This dude gets in the backfield a lot. He's insane. So be ready to keep an eye out for that. This Oregon team, they're going to look good. They're going to play good. They're going to feel good. They're going to get a W and cover the 3.5.
Do you know where this game is? Is it in Las Vegas?
No, the Big Ten is played in Indy. I believe.
Oh.
Yeah, at the Colts Stadium.
Ooh, okay, so
Yeah.
or okay, so all four Power Four championship games, just so everyone knows, features a team that was not even in that conference the previous year.
Yeah.
So it's wild.
That's crazy.
So when I think about Oregon, their game against Wisconsin, where they should have lost that game, okay, but Luke Fickell is their coach, so of course they're gonna win. Uh, that game scares me to death for playing Penn State because Penn State is Wisconsin, except much better. The Penn State defense is not going to allow Dylan Gabriel to just, you know, uh, high flying on skates out here.
Mhm.
Dylan Gabriel is going to have to read the defense, deliver the throws on time, on target. I'm still going to pick Oregon to win this game by 4 points, but it would not surprise me in the least if Penn State, James Franklin, showed up to this game and said, you know what? We are sick. Like his post game at the Maryland, I was like, let me tell you something. This is a different James Franklin. He's pissed. And I think he's going to take that swag to Indianapolis. They have the same colors as the Colts, don't they? And he's going to say, listen, put your foot in the ground and lay somebody out. And Penn State this is going to be a close game.
Yeah.
But I'm going to pick Oregon just because the ball is going to bounce one way or another. And just Oregon can just score way more points than Penn State can. Aller is they're too slow of an offense. But I'm telling you, when you watch this game, you're going to say, Penn State looks like a better team than Oregon, but Oregon's going to somehow win. So Oregon's going to cover. But I'm telling you right now, Logan, would not surprise me if Penn State won this game.
There you go. I listen. Hopefully, has James Franklin ever made the Big Ten championship?
I don't think no because
Ohio
well,
State, Michigan has been in their
Ohio
same
State
division.
they always lose. They
Yeah.
always lose. Yeah.
Well, because of the divisions, it was always Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan on the same one, which is why I'm glad that
Exactly.
division's out. I'm glad that that one's kind of merged together, and they don't have that anymore because you get Penn State to have an opportunity. So hey, listen, James Franklin's been building up to this. He's been told he can never win the big game. He lost one big game. Can he come in here, have another opportunity to win a big game and become Big Ten champions? Listen, if they do that, I'll have all respect for James Franklin. It'll be insane. You know what I mean? I would. It would be insane. It would be crazy if that happened, and I don't even know what I would say.
I mean, it's Sunday right now. By midweek, I might be like, hey, Logan, I might need to change my pick. Penn State, James Franklin got some swag now. He was coming out there, Mr. Nice Guy, like Tony Dungy.
Yeah.
Now he said, we had third teamers out there, bro. You can't stop that.
Yeah, that was great. No, I love that, dude. I loved it. That's what we should have seen from Billy right there, dude. That was literally supposed to be Billy's response to what happened. I mean, obviously not word for word, but the same kind of energy, and we didn't see that. Which by the way, did you see the Maryland coach like brought him in and was talking to him while he was clinching him to? Did you see that their handshake?
Yeah, it was weird.
He was trying to act all tough. It's what's your problem, bro?
And Mike Locksley, is I think is a good coach.
Yeah,
but
it's weird.
It was weird.
It's like he's trying to fight him. Yeah.
I'm like, Coach Locksley, dude, no, this is not a good look. Your team got destroyed. Penn State is not even that explosive of a team. You couldn't move the ball. And you got, what the hell is the difference? 38-7 to 44-7.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell is the difference? You got destroyed.
Yep.
So take your L and go back to Maryland. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. They got the touchdown early on and was not able to do anything else for the rest of the game. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I will see, man. It's gonna be. I love conference championship week, dude. This is gonna be so much fun. So many good games. It's gonna be great.
Oof.
And also,
Oof.
too, I love conference championship week because there's no games overlapping really, so you can like sit down and actually watch each individual game and take it in. It's gonna be great. Cannot wait.
Yes. Yes.
Next game we have the SEC championship, Georgia versus Texas.
Woo!
Texas favored by 2.5. The rematch. This is in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Georgia fans, it'll probably be 70-30. Georgia fans to Texas fans. It's going to be insane. Georgia obviously destroyed Texas early on in the year at Texas. At that stadium. Matthew McConaughey on the sideline crying as much as he cried in Interstellar. And Georgia gets it done. And if they did that at Texas, can they do it here in their home state? But then you go, hey, this is a different Texas team. They finally found some consistency to their football team. That I don't care, man. It's Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart didn't practice for Georgia Tech. Like you said, he practiced for Texas. Georgia goes in, beats Texas. Might not be a big win, but I think they get it done. I think they beat Texas and cause some controversy in the playoff.
Beautiful pick. Beautiful pick. Georgia. Listen, everybody's talking about Texas and Texas is back and it's all about matchups. And as good as Texas has looked, they have not looked good against teams that are balanced, meaning a team that is decent at all phases of the game. A team that can run it, a team that can throw it, a team that can stop the pass, a team that can stop the run. Georgia is good at all phases of the game. And in order to beat them, you have to be equally as good, but you also have to be able to be better than them in one of the categories.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like when you watch this game, which category is Texas materially better than Georgia at? And at the end of the day, I just see Georgia's style of play matching up very well with Texas. And I just think Georgia did not even Kirby Smart probably spent like Tuesday's practice on Georgia Tech. Yeah. He was probably like, okay, Tuesday we'll practice for Georgia Tech. They can't beat us. And then in the game, he figures out, oh, crap, we should have practiced for them. So now the whole week they were playing, and Texas was all in on Texas A&M.
Yep.
Because if they didn't win that game, they didn't go to the championship game.
Yep.
Georgia wins outright, covers. They slow down that Texas high-flying attack. They put pressure on that Texas defense. Carson Beck, he was not good in that Georgia Tech game.
No.
Okay? Haynes King outplayed him.
Yep.
But Georgia finds a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. Kirby Smart wins SEC championship.
I agree. And like I was saying, Kirby Smart's been here multiple times, right? And same kind of thing going back to what I was saying about Clemson and SMU. And, he understands what it's like to play in that stadium. And he did that at Alabama all the time as well. You know what I mean? So I think he just knows the degree of this atmosphere, that energy surrounded by, the week leading up to it, getting to that stadium, being in that locker room. And I think that that's going to really be a beneficial thing for him. Like I said, I think this would be a close game. I don't think you're going to see as many turnovers in this game. Hopefully not. So, what was it, like 7 turnovers in total now? It was insane. So I think...
And when you look at... Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. You're good. I didn't have really anything else to say.
But when you look at Texas throughout the season, when they play Vanderbilt is good and they're decent in all 4 phases. They don't really have a substantial weakness.
Right.
Except they're just not as talented as everybody. So that's why they keep it close, is because, well, maybe your team's not good against the run. Okay, well, Vanderbilt's decent at running, so they're going to stay.
Right.
That game was a lot closer. Arkansas. Arkansas is they had okay. Arkansas is like defense sometimes just completely falls off a map.
Yeah.
But if Arkansas doesn't fumble that ball late in that game, they're driving down the field. That's a different game.
Yep.
Arkansas's balanced. Kentucky's they're not elite, but they are relatively okay at everything except passing it.
Hmm.
So that game was close. When they played us, everyone is looking, oh, well, we beat Florida 49-17. So I'm kind of like, that's kind of like that's not really, we can't
You
really
can't
look at
fall
that.
back on that. No.
But people are looking at that game like, well, I just think Georgia is going to be Vanderbilt, except they're just a step up in talent in all the
Yep.
positions. So I got to go Georgia in this game. It's going to be wild. So if Georgia wins, that means they get a top four seed.
That's yeah, that's ridiculous, bro. Like I don't care who you are. Like that's a joke. I mean, hey,
Well,
that's a good win. It's a good win, but it's just
but
like
but at the end of the day, though, they would have two wins over Texas. Texas's only two losses would be to Georgia, which was crazy to think about.
mhm.
Which is why I don't like. Which is another thing about the divisions. In the divisions, I feel like you're less likely to have a rematch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, well, now I don't think you can have a rematch when you have the divisions because you're playing somebody in the opposite division for the championship, right?
Right.
Yeah. So when you don't have the divisions, now you have every year you're gonna have a rematch.
Well, yeah, it's like last year with Oregon and Washington. They played each other 3 times, right? Something crazy like that.
And
It was
okay,
wild.
okay, beautiful example. That is why I'm scared to pick. I might need to change my pick. I might need to change because
Yeah.
Oregon, like Penn State is Washington, except Aller. I just don't trust
I don't like
Aller.
Aller at all. Yeah, you're gonna
I
have to
don't
throw the
like
ball.
Aller. I'm just like Aller. Aller is like a poor man's Riley Leonard.
Yeah.
Like Aller, yeah, you're a great kid. I'm sure you're the nicest guy in the world. But dude, you gotta throw that ball. You gotta zing that thing in there.
It's consistency. That's his problem.
Consistent. He
Yeah.
just not. And I just think Oregon's defense is gonna be able to just cause some havoc for him.
Yep.
And I just don't see if Oregon puts the pressure on Penn State for Aller to be able to stand back there and lead a comeback. So that's why I'm just going to go with Oregon. But I'm just telling you, I think James Franklin is going to will his team to a close game against Oregon.
If you want to flip your pick, you can flip it. I feel like you want to. I feel like you're
No, no,
insinuating you
no,
want to
no,
do it,
no,
man.
no, no, no. We'll keep it. We'll keep it. We'll keep it. We'll keep it. We'll
All
keep
right,
it.
all right, all right. Yeah, no, dude, if he can somehow win this game, it'll be one of the best college football stories in the past 10 years when it comes to just like a very long build up. You know what I mean? And just not getting over that hump, not getting over that hump. Finally, getting rid of the divisions and being able to make it to this game out of luck by Ohio State losing,
Yeah.
right? And him actually dropping a big game against Ohio State, but then him getting a chance against Oregon, first time team in this in this conference, goes and wins it all, which is insane. It'd be crazy. With Drew Aller as your quarterback, it was wild. So we'll see what happens. We'll see. But yeah, there's our picks, man. We're with each other the whole time except the Clemson and SMU game. I think Clemson will win it. EJ thinks SMU will take it, which honestly is the right pick. It was more of an emotional pick for me. Something's telling me that Clemson might get it done, but we'll see, man. We'll see what happens. But yeah, going to be a fun one, man. Cannot wait to watch all these games. We got some on Friday, some on Saturday. Going to be a good time. EJ, any last words you want to tell everybody out there before we do the crazy brackets of next week?
Oh, hey, man. You know why they did the top 12. It's going to bring in a lot more money than just the top four,
Yep.
and it's going to give us a lot more material to talk about.
Yep.
Um, which I'm here for.
More money, too, for them.
More money, more revenue, more NIL. But at the end of the day, I do not think the best team in the country will be outside the top four. I think, well, it will be based on how they do it because they're going to put like SMU as
Yeah.
number four. But
I
it's
mean,
going to be an
possibly Boise State if Boise State wins and SMU gets destroyed.
I mean, that's when that happens and people look at the bracket, they're going to be like, Boise State's number three,
Yeah.
and people are going to be like, yeah, they're number three, yeah. Woo, woo, woo. So it's just a weird, but we cannot wait to see how this season ends. Florida will be bringing y'all a bowl game matchup preview. We should know that on next a week from now.
Yeah, it should be sometime this week, correct?
So they usually reveal it after the championship
Mm,
games are done. Uh, and then they'll know like the playoff rankings, and then we'll start to get the invites for the bowl games. That'll be interesting to see because uh, you know, typically we've played teams that everyone plays, and then we half our team opts out, and then we get destroyed.
right.
So we'll see what happens, but we'll be excited about that preview. And then last, want to touch on the basketball team. I'll do a few videos throughout the year on the basketball team. Um, they were down the street from you.
Yeah, they're right there.
They were down the beautiful
Kissimmee.
Kissimmee, Florida, the
ESPN
Disney
Wide World of Sports. Yeah.
wide world. That's a
It's
tongue
tough. Yeah,
twister.
dude, that's why it gets me.
Wide world of sports.
Something like
Can't
that.
even
Yeah.
say it. Beautiful location. Absolutely just dominated
Destroyed.
these teams. Like, first of all, okay, we're not playing the greatest competition here. But at the end of the day, Wake Forest beat you last year. And now you played them. You didn't even play a good game and you destroy them. Wichita State was undefeated. And we were up by 50 points. We were up by 50 points in the game. And then we put in the walk-ons. And then that's the thing about basketball is I didn't agree with, and this is what James Franklin was talking about at the end of his game. He was like, point differential, these stats, they use all these in consideration. In basketball, it's even more like that. We were up 88-40 in the last 2 minutes of the game against Wichita State.
Hmm.
Then we empty the bench and put all the walk-ons in, and then Wichita State still had their starters in, and they go on an 11-0 run to end the game, and it's 88-51 is the final score. It's kind of like, okay, what the hell? Who cares? We still won. We dominated.
Right.
But what basketball will do, they come up with these net rankings, and they use things like point differential, offensive efficiency, how many points did you allow, defensive efficiency. And that comes back to haunt you later in the year when they're ranking the teams and giving out the seeds. And they say, well, Florida gives up two less points than this team, so we should put them in. So, I kind of think we shouldn't have put all the walk-ons in until like the last 30 seconds, but that's my only gripe. We finally had a complete game beginning to end. The SEC is looking like it's shaping up. Auburn, they look pretty unstoppable basketball wise. They've beaten everybody. They've beaten all the top teams.
Oof.
And they play Duke on Tuesday. So on Wednesday night, we play Virginia, another team that beat us last year. So we'll
How are they looking?
see. So Virginia, so they lost their coach, Tony Bennett. Um,
Oh yeah,
and so
yeah.
they have a new coach, but he was on the staff, so it's the same style. But Tony Bennett left. He retired because he was kind of like this new era of college basketball. I It's not for me. Like I recruiting my own players, trying to go into the transfer portal, trying to build a new team every year. He was just like, it's too much. I'm over it. And Billy Donovan left because of the same. Well, Billy Donovan left because the transfer portal. Now you have the NIL on top of that. So his Bennett and Donovan were kind of like, I recruit a team and I want to develop them over multiple years. And then that's my team. But now you're coaching a whole new team every year, pretty much. So he was kind of done with that. Florida, if this team shoots the ball well, I don't think you can beat them. So you're going to have to be able to defend our team. I don't think Virginia is going to be capable of that. I think we're going to destroy them.
Okay.
But we do play Arizona State and North Carolina after that. So that's going to tell us all we need to know about this team. And in the SEC, we start out with Kentucky, Arkansas, and Tennessee in basketball. Basically, the 3 hardest games you can play to start off. We'll see where we go. But really loving this team. I think they'll give us a lot to talk about when football is over. Yeah, so go Gators.
Go Gators, baby. All right, well, there you go. And also some big news in college football. Georgia Tech just flipped a 4-star interior offensive lineman from Florida State. So they just lost a 4-star. He was actually originally committed to us like a long time ago. His name's Peyton Joseph. He flipped to Florida State and then flipped to Georgia Tech. And then Georgia cornerback Julian Humphrey is going to enter the transfer portal, which is crazy. He's their number 1 cornerback. And so Billy Napier, got to look after right now if we're going to go crazy in the transfer portal. That's a great place to start. And then, of course, Andy Jean plans to enter the transfer portal as well. And that is pretty much everything there news-wise. So college football is going to get interesting, man. These next couple weeks, these next couple months is going to be insane with the transfer portal and playoff and all that. It's going to be insane. So fun stuff on the way. Follow us on our Instagram. It's in the description down below. Click on that link. We do videos and all kinds of stuff there. I want to do a TikTok soon to get something going there. Post some videos on there as well. So it should be fun. But appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. See you next week.
Go Gators.